And we are streaming away. We're streaming today. I hope you're doing fine. There's so many streams for us to see, but this one here is mine. I hope that the world around you is treating you so well. Now come and join me, my dear friends, as we watch the world go to hell. And we're streaming. We're streaming. We're streaming today. Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm having a beautiful day today. In fact, a cousin of mine from Alberta visiting here in Toronto. We went for a lovely meal together by Mark, 4-star restaurant. I found out that she was quite the foodie, so the whole time that we were eating the meal, she was doing that thing where she's taking the picture, and her husband are really chatting it up about their experience of the food. It was like a little theater show in and of itself. It was like food with a show. Some people get really like scoffy and dismissive of these foodie types, and I find it to be quite delightful. Like I'm when it comes to food, I'm very utilitarian, very much like the vegetable mash goes in my face and sustains me for yet another day, right? That kind of position. And so when I see people who have this desire and this passion to absorb and know more and to discuss and really find out what it is they like or dislike about what they're eating, I find it to be so charming, and it was such a lovely experience. And I only got to spend a very short period of time with them as they were traveling through the city, but it was so nice to see a cousin. Boy, maybe 10 years since I've seen my cousin. So it was really nice, lovely, and a good excuse to get downtown in Toronto. And we went and saw some art galleries near the Art Gallery of Ontario, which was really lovely. And there was a piece that's really haunting me where it was somebody took like a still frame of Britney Spears when she had shaved her head, and they painted it, and there was streaking and all of this, but they really captured the sort of manic moment of her breakdown that really like made me sympathize and empathize with Britney in a way that I don't think I had before. I've been very sympathetic with Britney Spears since that moment in particular, because I mean I feel like Britney Spears is a victim of capitalism. She's been turned into a complete commodity, and her breakdown is predictable and harrowing all at the same time. So, well, God bless you, Britney Spears. I hope you're doing well. In positive news, something worth talking about. Here's a photo of Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton didn't spend her millions on vanity space travel. She spent it putting 150 million books in the hands of children and helping fund the COVID vaccine, and honestly, more people should be like Dolly. We need to have more positive role models in our life. Like, I feel like there's a lot of very good examples of negative role models, and as the show goes on, I'm going to be playing some videos of people have been getting very thorough, let's say, and artistic and poetic in regards to this Jeff Bezos space launch. And it really does seem to me that there's been something of a pivoting point in terms of our consciousness regarding how we're discussing capitalism with each other surrounding this space launch, and Jeff Bezos specifically. Perhaps I can just, where is that? Because I feel like I've segued into it perfectly, so maybe I should just, do I have it up and running, or, oh, this is a great video. I'm saving this video for later, because I want to save it for when there's more people in. Oh, come on, John, I've set this up so beautifully, and here I am, unprepared. Oh, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Hi, Onward. How you doing? Early for you, bud. You're usually in at about 8 o'clock. Good to see you, though, bud. Good to see you. You know what? This is absolutely worth showing. Here is a segment of the testimony given by Officer Fanone on the Republican behavior since the insurrection and talking about the insurrection on January 6th as they are moving forward with the investigation. I mean, it's only taken, 6 months to actually get police officers who were at the scene. And so here is a segment of this testimony.
I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist, or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful. My law enforcement career prepared me to cope with some of the aspects of this experience. Being an officer, you know your life is at risk whenever you walk out the door, even if you don't expect otherwise law-abiding citizens to take up arms against you. But nothing, truly nothing, has prepared me to address those elected members of our government who continue to deny the events of that day, and in doing so, betray their oath of office.
And this really speaks a very powerful statement given passionately by the officer here for obvious reasons, right? Like it's disillusionment is a very powerful and dangerous force that exists. And we saw that post-Obama. One could make the argument, as I do, that the ascension of Donald Trump comes because of a wave of mass disillusionment after the Obama administration, that many Americans had, and honestly many North Americans and many Westerners generally, had really sort of pinned their hope on the idea that Obama was going to genuinely bring a wave of change, that he ran on a platform of hope and change, and it seemed as though he was genuine in that. But after his expansion of the wars from simply, it had been Iraq and Afghanistan under Bush, and then he expanded that war effort, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Oman, the drone wars. If we recall correctly, it was Obama that introduced drone warfare into this. And so this, while coupled with the continued abandonment and invisibilization of the poor and homeless throughout America, which has become a massive crisis, and it's this disillusionment, this wave of discontent that ultimately propels Donald Trump as a protest against this, and as a kind of rising anger and vengeance, as well as a plunging towards sadism that ascends Donald Trump into the White House. And you are seeing here in this speech a fellow who is experiencing that same kind of disillusionment with his own elected officials and with the people around him. And he's really speaking to that, to something that I have been saying quite a lot, which is that the hardest part of dealing with this crisis, be it the climate change crisis, be it the COVID-19 crisis, be it the crisis of the collapsing capitalist system, is dealing with the denialists. is dealing with the people who are denying that these events are occurring. That's the part that is the most exhausting, is realizing that you live in a world where large segments of the society, so in the case of climate change, for example, there's still something like 30% of the populace that thinks it's a Chinese hoax or that it's made up and that the story isn't real. That's 3 out of every 10 people you run into hold this kind of view. And it's exhausting because it gives a massive lie to the idea that we are all in this together. That, well, 3 out of 10 people don't even see that there's a problem, right? Like this is the equivalent, in my view, of being in a sinking ship and screaming, we need to start bailing out the sinking ship. And 3 people, and unfortunately they're 3 people who hold all of the buckets, are saying, no, the ship is fine, we're sailing along just fine. There is no leak, we are not taking on water. And finally people are just having to throw water out of the boat with their hands and are desperately doing everything they can to get a hold of a bucket, but we're just being left to our own devices while the people who are actually captaining the ship, and finally the ones who are captaining the ship go, oh, okay, I guess there's a problem, and so they allow one person to have a bucket while the rest of the people stand and watch them bail out water. And it's obviously not enough. And this is where we find ourselves in these crises and in this state. And my heart goes out to this officer because he is confronting what I consider to be the most difficult part of handling this collapsing capitalist death cult, which is the delusion. That it's the delusion that is the hardest part. Like if everybody was bailing the water out, right? If we were in this sinking ship and everyone was bailing the water out, I think that we would all feel pretty good about it. Even if it was being done sort of in the face of a hopeless situation, I feel like we would at least be looking at one another saying, we are all doing our best. We are all confronting this. We will, if we go down, we are going down together. But that's not the case. That the people who are bailing are not convinced that it's of the urgency. They're steadily and slowly filling up the bucket, trundling over to the side of the boat, tipping the bucket over, coming back, filling the bucket, right? While another 3 people are just saying there's no problem whatsoever. So one can see why it would be tempting to simply jump off the side of the boat and be done with it. Onward, the people who don't deny it are filled with the death drive to make it worse. I do worry that that is part of it. That there are people who do understand that it's happening and would prefer to just head towards. I don't know if that's conscious though. Like I doubt it's cleanly stated as that. I doubt it's as cleanly stated as like, yes, climate change is coming, and I say we do make it happen. Like I think that there's something more existential and deeper than that. Like the French actually have the French philosophers have an interesting phrase called the call to the void. And of course there's some beautiful French way of saying this, but it translates as the call to the void. And it's when you're standing on the side of a street corner and a car comes rushing by, there's a little tiny part of you that thinks, I could just jump in front of this car, right? Or when you're standing at the top of a building and you look over the edge, there is a little tiny shred of you that wonders and thinks to itself, I could just jump off the side of the building, right? And the French philosophers call this the call to the void, that everyone does have within them this intrinsic desire to reach the end of their life. Hey Ruth, how you doing today? Good to see you, Ruth. You're coming in as I'm talking about something real grim, but what else is new on this channel, right? What else is new on this channel? And the call to the void, like we have this sort of idea in Western culture that we are afraid of death, the great unknown, right? The undiscovered country and all of that kind of stuff. But the French have a kind of a different view of it, where they say, sure, yeah, there's a bit of that, but there's also there is another aspect where people look at it and see it as a great relief, see it as something to look forward to and to embrace. And I think that there is a lot of that going on, that people are seeing the overwhelming nature of the capitalist climate change crisis, and are simply defaulting into, oh, well, this will all be over soon. And that flows very cleanly into the evangelical Christian ethos, that so much of evangelical Christianity, and the reason this is important is because it's such a prominent belief system throughout the United States, and throughout Canada, and so much of that ethos is focused on life will be so much better when we're dead, right? We'll go see Jesus up in heaven, right? And things will be so much nicer after this. And so everything is focused not on your life, and not on the kingdom that you could build on this plane of existence with your brothers and sisters who are here with you now, but instead all things are focused on what comes next after you die. And there's this kind of longing and worship in many ways of the death moment. And I think it flows into that same idea of the death instinct, the desire ultimately for everyone to return to their creator, to return to the energy and the essence that birthed them. And I think it's quite natural to have that. And so I'm deeply concerned that if we don't confront that directly and actually talk about it directly, that we'll just sort of sleepwalk our way to it, because we won't actually confront what must be done in order to prevent our mass extinction. We'll simply fall into the death instinct, which is an intrinsic part of being alive. Now, there are two kinds of pessimism. The end is near, and will this never end? Yes, I'm very familiar with both of those. Both of those statements ring very, very true to me. I feel like I might as well have the sandwich board that says the end is nigh. I should get some t-shirts printed, don't you think? Get some the end is nigh t-shirts? I'm sure someone has already done this. It seems like so obvious to do. And will this never end? I know, like, there is this. I definitely acknowledge inside of myself that there is an element of, like, I kind of want shit to just start going crazy, so that at least fleeing from climate change disaster would be better than this sort of sitting and anticipating it and waiting for things to happen, right? Like, and allowing us to sort of wallow in this kind of delusional denialism. At least if we were, relocating or rebuilding or bailing out water or fleeing or something, at least that would be action. At least we would be moving in a direction. Whereas this eternal sort of stasis that we've been placed into, that I see in our culture all over the place. Like, we are caught in a cultural feedback loop. Like, we keep remaking movies and remaking literature and remaking comic books and remaking the same kind of stuff over and over and over again. We seem to be incapable of evolving or growing up in any meaningful way. We're caught in this cultural loop. Like we have to make yet another iteration of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We have to remake Batman again. We have to make another Superman movie, right? We have to make another X-Men movie. Like, it needs to consistently reiterate on the same stuff over and over and over again, because if we're the only way that we can actually grow up and actually get out of it is to actually confront these crises that are directly in front of us, and that's hard. And so many of us, I think, are just going to check out of it. And Ruth, it makes no logical sense. Like, everything I just explained is without logic. It's and I don't call it irrational. It's non-rational. These are non-rational forces that exist within humanity and exist within the human experience, because it just is how we are. That we are born randomly into the world. We live our lives for the best that we can do. If we can create a meta understanding of ourselves within our society, that is how the society ultimately shifts and changes. And then we die. And these are truisms, and none of that makes any logical sense whatsoever. Why does any of that happen? What is the point of any of that? What is the point of any of this? What is the point of all of this angst and despair, or joy and creation? Why do we feel this longing to destroy everything around us, and why do we feel this longing to build anything at all? It's madness upon madness, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence for any of it, but we want to do it because we're here and we're human, and that's how it is, and it's not logical. And I feel like so much of this, like, there's a void that exists in our culture because we have diminished and despised and commodified the humanities so much that those of us who actually study the human condition and what it is to be a human being are admonished for having done so. We're told, oh, well, you're not going to get a job with that, as if the purpose of studying humanity, as if the purpose of studying the human condition is to get a job, is to sell ourselves to a capitalist. Like, it's a grotesque obscenity upon an obscenity. Like, it's stupidity wrapped in dumbness, foisted up on a plate of what the hell, man. Onward. At noon, come on, man came over the whole land, and at 3 p.m, Jesus cried out, "Ask not for whom the man comes. The come on man comes for thee." Come on, man. Come on, man. Don't you know? Don't you know that America is the greatest country in the world? America, there is no country and anybody who tells me that America is not the greatest country in the world is full of malarkey. You know, come on, man. That we are here together as Americans in unity because we are the greatest nation on the come on, man. And the malarkey that you're telling me about the American tradition of being a come on, man is not aligning with my unity in the malarkey. So you need to remember that the United States of America will defend its come on, man, and you need to come on, man. Because that's how we are gonna malarkey. That's my Joe Biden. It's a work in progress, that is. That's a work in progress, but I'll get there. They need to let Grandpa out more often. We could all use a laugh. You know, man, and Joe's trying his best, right? Joe's trying his best. Like, one of the things I think that Joe Biden has really succeeded in is convincing people that he actually gives a shit about average Americans. That's his great success as a president, because there's lots of evidence to show that Joe Biden does not give a fuck about Americans at all. Like, I would actually argue that there's way more evidence, like hard evidence, showing Joe Biden not giving a fuck about Americans than Donald Trump. Like, Donald Trump at least was sort of an oddball outsider. You didn't know what his position was really. There was that one kind of quote where he said, I bet you I could, if I was to run for president, I'd run in the Republican Party because they'll vote anybody, right? You can lie to them, you can say whatever you like. But Joe Biden is on the record, on the congressional record, or was he a senator? Anyway, he's on the record as going after welfare, as wanting to destroy services, as wanting to bomb people, as wanting to spread misery throughout the world. Joe Biden has a long voting history of destroying the lives of average Americans and being happy to do so. And so his greatest success, in my view, as president, is convincing anybody that he is this lovable, Uncle Joe kind of figure, right? When, he's always been a nightmare sociopath. He's always been that way. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care at all about any of these people. He doesn't care about these children. He doesn't care. When the climate crisis, if the climate crisis hits and Joe Biden is the one that's in office, he's just going to abandon people. He'll raise the police budget and they'll create a police line, and the people who are trying to who are trying to, just get access to clean drinking water and food for their families are going to meet these cops. And that's Joe Biden, man. That's Joe Biden. And his great success as a president is really coming in and just being calm and statesmanly and being we are here as Americans together to live in unity with one another and peace and love and malarkey, and come on, man. And but he's just as nefarious as Donald Trump, if not more so. He's bombed way more than Donald Trump did. In terms of militarism, Joe Biden is way scarier than Donald Trump. Way scarier. High level. Trump would do sanctions and stuff, but Joe Biden is doing exactly those same sanctions and even ramping them up. And Trump would assassinate a guy, he assassinated that Iranian general, but Joe Biden literally shut the media down in Syria and carpet bombed it. And this is supposed to be the not fascist option? This is the not fascist option coming out of America? Oy, jeez Louise. Yeah, I know it's not funny to make fun of the elderly in decline, but he's not a great person. You ain't black? Yeah. Every bad thing that's happened in the last 40 years, he's had a hand in it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Onward. And I agree with you. It's not fun. It's not funny to make fun of the elderly in decline, but it is funny to make fun of a sociopath in decline. I say when it comes to these guys, we don't pull any punches. And the most terrifying thing, in my view, about what's happening in America is that the average age of the Congress is something like 65. It's quite old. The Congress and the Senate are ancient, and the White House has been controlled by these elderly guys. And these people are starting to fall into dementia. It is happening. We are watching it happen. That our elected representatives are falling into dementia. And that's becoming more and more common. And we are steadily being ruled by a class of rapacious sociopaths who are also losing their mental faculties. That is real. We are watching it happen. And it's going to be come on, man, as we drop the nukes, right? Come on, man, malarkey. And it's, there's a lot of potential for a lot of crazy shit to come down. I'm very worried about another Vietnam War. That's what I'm worried about. They're not pounding the drum about it. They're not doing any of that kind of stuff. But like, I think to myself, like, where is a place that America could successfully bomb? And the world would probably just not worry about it. Like, not really say much about it. Would just kind of go along with it and sort of bow its head and allow America to bomb it. Yeah, I think Vietnam. Like, I don't think like Europe would stand up and shed a tear for Vietnam. I don't think Canada would fight back against it, you know, and given that Vietnam is trying very hard to, not trying very hard, but is in talks with China to federate, to allow China to become part of its federated body, I can see America being like, nah, we're that's a bunch of malarkey. We're gonna stop that. Come on, man, and just, you know, we got to stop the spread of communism, right? They did it before. I don't see why they shouldn't do it again. Meanwhile, here in Canada, Canada approves deal to sell $74 million worth of explosives to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, as we know, are enacting, along with the United States, a genocide in Yemen, and like, this is like an open air genocide. The people of Yemen are taking to the streets and declaring it. They send representatives to the UN. It's very well known that there is a Yemeni genocide going on, maintained by the Saudis and the Americans, and of course us here in Canada as we sell weapons. That's our liberal government, our empty-headed haircut of a Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, right? He's just sort of going along with the will of the empire. Refusing to dig his heels in, refusing to actually do what must be done. I genuinely do feel, the more I think about it, the more I contemplate it, that we as Canadians do have to come to a place where we have to at least attempt, given the goodwill that we do have with the Americans, given our position in the Western alliances like NATO, we as Canadians really do have to get to a point where we have to at least attempt to talk these guys down. We have to stop going along with this. We do have to, and not like that chrétien stand up and in one act of defiance say we're not going to Iraq, but rather to stand up and consistently and continuously begin to say to the United States and our Western allies, we genuinely do need to stop this. We genuinely do need to de-escalate. We genuinely do need to stop participating. And we as Canadians need to stop participating in this. And we have to at least try. We have to at least stand up to the Americans and say what we are doing is going to destroy our children. And if we don't actually make the attempt, then we're just going to quietly march to the grave. It's just exactly what's going to happen. It'll be sold in some way that's woke. Yeah, the woke shit is so embarrassing. It's literally just because the conservatives know that they have nothing to offer anymore. All they have to offer is a culture war. That's it. They have no position. They have no policy. They have no ideas. They have no thoughts. And anytime they do come out with an idea, it's a worse version of an idea that's coming out of the left. And so all they have is this idiotic, childish, and it's very childish, this woke kind of speak. And in a way, they've kind of turned into that sort of Nietzschean phrase of, if you stare too long into the void stares back at you. Well, they've been preaching this anti-woke stuff for so long that it's like they are the ones who are now on the wrong side of that. They accuse the woke crowd of being reductive and childish, but who is more reductive and childish than someone who is standing up and refusing to acknowledge climate change, refusing to acknowledge economic issues, and simply saying that everything is woke? It's to the point now where a person that says woke when they're writing, you can just take them and just discard them. They're not a credible intellectual. They're not really an intelligent thinker. It's like somebody like Rex Murphy, who literally Rex Murphy has a strong grasp on the English language. He's memorized the dictionary and has a thesaurus on hand. But he is an idiot. Like, he is, like, fundamentally an idiot. He just knows how to speak well, and so he still gets published because he's just the smart guy's idiot. Okay, let me take a run-up on this name again. I will get it. Agnieszka Marszałek. Now, that SZ combo, is it more like S, or is it more like Z? Or is there an in-between? It's like Marszałek. And I bet that R rolls, too. Agnieszka Marszałek. All right, I'm gonna stop because I know that you're probably on the other end, just being like, "Oh, shut up! Stop! Shut up!" What Agni says here. Hi all. Also, hello. How are you? JT backed out of the earlier deal, $4 billion of the weapons to the Saudis, but now he's snuck it by us. Yeah. Yep, he's exactly like a liberal, buddy. He's sneaky, right? Aga, it's sh. Oh, so it's like Agnieszka, like that. All right, Aga, yeah. I'll just stick with Aga. How's that? That's what liberals do, man. They're sneaky. They know how to play the politics game. Like, this is the thing that people don't really get about liberals, and especially liberals don't get about liberals, is that they are playing a game. That politics to them is a game. There's a reason why the Liberal Party is the natural ruling party, because they're extremely manipulative, and they know how to manipulate the populace, and they know how to play these political games, and they know how to pit groups against one another, and they know that the populace is not really that conscious, right? That the populace is kind of in a state of perpetual sleepwalking, and they know how to maintain that position in the populace. They know how to keep the populace in that kind of dreamy, sleepy state, and it allows them to present themselves as statesmen and as virtuous, as good Canadians, as iconic, as important, while simultaneously doing really evil, imperialistic, duplicitous things to the degree where they can like straight up just lie, like they did with the electoral reform narrative, right? Like, just straight up told us that, yeah, we're going to do electoral reform, but literally the second they came to the conclusion that electoral reform wasn't going to directly benefit them immediately, they abandoned it. And like, one kind of assumes that, like, hey, if you keep your promises, people will probably support you regardless of the electoral system that's in place. But again, like, the liberals are constantly gaming the system, and they're constantly like they're far more clever than the conservatives are. Like, the conservatives are fairly honest in their propaganda is stupid, right? Like, their propaganda is Justin Trudeau is covering up a Chinese propaganda campaign, right? Like, or a Chinese bioweapons program. Like, that's conservative propaganda. Conservative propaganda is saying, like, outlandish QAnon crazy bullshit that only crazy people and only, like, true believers can actually believe. Like, who genuinely believes that Justin Trudeau is covering up a Chinese bioweapons program? Does anyone actually believe that? I mean, certainly there must be someone in the world, but it's so stupid, right? Liberal propaganda is much more effective. It's much more effective because it fundamentally, while conservative propaganda often plays on our fear, which is effective when it's done, like immigrants coming to take your job. Like, that's a fear campaign. that is baseless and stupid, but effective because it's fear. Whereas liberals generally play on your goodwill, that they know that you actually do want to improve the society. They know that you actually do want things to be better for yourself and your neighbors, right? They know that. And so that's what they play on, right? And of course, when they play fear politics, their fear politics is fear-mongering the conservatives. Like, who do you think is spreading around this line? Oh, you got to vote liberal or else the conservatives will get in. Who do you think's doing that? Like, it's not the conservatives that are saying that. It's not the NDP that are saying that. It's the fucking liberals. So that's how the liberals fearmonger. And they're very clever. They're very astute. And, like, my statement is always, if you had to choose between two guys, and one guy said, hey, vote for me and I'll punch you in the face, and the other guy said, I will not punch you in the face, and then after you voted for him, he immediately punched you in the face, like, which one of those two would you think were worse, right? I mean, I would make the case that it's the guy who lied to you, and then just blindsides you, as opposed to the guy who's like, I'm going to punch you in the face, and then when you elect him, he punches you in the face, and you're like, yeah, I don't know what I expected. Ruth, I don't believe we'll get anything from them, but it's better than getting the worst part of what the cons promised. Yeah. I would never vote for either, but I don't believe the NDP will get in. I think that we can get an NDP opposition in this election. I think that that is on the table. Like, if I was a betting man, I would put my money on the table for a liberal minority, because again, Canadians are very gullible and very easy to manipulate. But they're getting more suspicious, and they're getting more, and also the narrative, like the conservatives are weak, they're weakening, and so Canadians are feeling less skittish and less fearful. And like this post-pandemic Canadian, there's like a boldness where they want, like the average Canadian is starting to believe that we can actually improve things. That this neoliberal grift that we've been sold for our whole lives doesn't actually seem to work. And so, and when you consider a lot of these elections and a lot of these ridings are decided by like hundreds of votes, like very thin margins, thin percentages, it is completely possible that the NDP, and completely, not only possible, but reasonable to say that it is possible that the NDP become the leaders of an opposition in a liberal minority. And I actually think that a liberal minority is the most likely outcome, with an NDP opposition being plausible and possible. The Conservatives haven't quite collapsed enough yet. We'll see. We'll see. Canadians are more worried about Americans driving in this month. Canadians are more worried about Americans driving in this month? I guess so. I mean, I'm always worried about Americans driving with their big stupid trucks. America! All that kind of stuff. No, this is nothing. Yeah. This is a great tweet. Comes out of a young lady named Riley. It's so weird being raised by Christians and spending your entire childhood being told to care about others, then one day they're just like, you're not actually supposed to care about others, you stupid socialist. Hey, Toy Store, how you doing? Good to see you. American SUVs are now bigger than the tanks that fought in World War II. Is that true? Is that true, Onward? American SUVs now bigger than the tanks that fought in WW2. They're longer. And they've gotten as big. And these guys are saying they're almost as big. Still, though. Like, I feel like almost as big is bad enough. I think almost as big is bad enough. Hold on. They've got to be like a side-by-side picture. Come on. Go away. Cars versus tanks. Wow, they are longer. Like, they're straight up longer. No kidding, man. Like, this is comparable. Like, there's your Panzer. There's an M4 Sherman. The M22 Locust. So, like, the M22 Locust is, like, comparable to like, a Ram. Jesus Christ, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that annoys me. I'm annoyed by this. Like, no. Like, no. What possible reason could you have? Oh, I think this is going to be the graph, dude. This is going to be the one right here. Come on, give me that picture that was in the thing. Oh, yeah, here it is. Get out of here. Size comparisons, World War I, tanks, and American trucks. What? Go. No. Oh, what is happening? There we go. Okay, we did it. Oh my goodness, this is back. Oh my goodness, pop-ups. Capitalism. I'm being capitalism. Okay. I just want to see the size comparison between World War tanks and American trucks. I don't need your ads. Okay. Ruth, your first car was a Cutlass Supreme, 1978. That was a tank. That's true, Onward. You've been on point. You're always on point. This one seemed a little unbelievable, dude, but look at this. Look at this shit. Like, Sherman tank, German Panzer, Ford F-150. Chevy Silverado, like, they're the same size. Like, just put a friggin' turret. Like, if you put a gun in the back of this and shot it out the back, it'd be the same friggin' size. Like, British Cromwell, the Soviet T-3485 Dodge Ram. The Dodge Ram is longer than these tanks. Like, what the frickin' flippin'? What the flippin' for frocklin'? What the jamblar? What the stuplaka? This is some junk jablangla. How do you like my fake swears? I'm a big fan of fake swears. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable that we are producing tanks to just let Americans drive around. Yeah, that's normal. Normal society, totally normal. We're in the middle of a crisis climate, but whatever. You know, whatever. Jeez the friggin' wheeze, dude. And it literally is so that dudes can just be like, yeah, I got my big truck. Not compensating for anything. Yeah. Like, if you have a truck like this, I know a guy who has a truck like this, but he uses it, right? Like, he's using it for shit. But then I also know dudes who are literally like, oh no, I can't use this truck as a truck. Like, I don't want to get a scratch on my truck, right? I definitely know those guys. And, like, it's just like an abomination. We're in the midst of this absolute climate catastrophe where we need to be doing everything we can to, like, full-scale stop. We need to erect a war effort. We need to actually make things better. Nope. Ford F-150 Dodge Ram Silverado, the Cougar Thunderbird. I gotta like a rock, like a rock. Like, we can't just fucking be normal people. Everything's gotta be like a manifestation of our insecurities and our fears, and like people say, like, oh, he's compensating for having a small dick, but, like, I think he's compensating for, like, being a small child who is afraid and scared. So he's got to surround himself with a fucking tank. He's got to have a tank chassis so that people know, like, yeah, you want to come with me, you got to come in my Ford F-150. And then he puts, like, Trump on it, and like it's a hands off my gun, and like all this kind of crazy bananas shit, which is all just like an armoring and a layering, because if you started to actually peel away and strip down the stickers, strip down the guns, strip down the chassis, strip down all of that, and actually get to the human being, the fucking Earl that owns all of this shit that's surrounding him, what you would find is a small, tiny, vulnerable, weeping child who has never once in his life been permitted to actually grow up. That instead of growing up and finding his feet and being a strong individual, he just projects that. So instead of actually being it, he's created this image of being it. And the image of being in it ultimately destroys him and everything around him. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, and it's so sad. Like, it's so sad. And I try so hard not to be dismissive of these guys. I try so hard, like, and I feel like there is a lot of dismissiveness that goes around these kind of guys. But like, no one is more scared than these guys. These guys are terrified. It's obvious that they're terrified. Like, they're very vulnerable. They're very isolated. They're very scared. And I honestly don't know how to ameliorate it. I honestly don't know how to ameliorate it. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, right? Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus Christ. Ugh. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's actually a really interesting one. So Polling Canada asked the question of Canadians. Here, this is a three-parter. What's your view on private, for-profit, long-term care homes? This story is a really important one because of what is happening here in Ontario. That the for-profit, long-term care homes, the military went into these long-term care homes, and they discovered that they were essentially shitholes. That the public long-term care homes were reasonable, but the privatized ones were bug-infested, the food was moldy, people couldn't get a glass of water, like literally the elderly dying of dehydration in these facilities. And it's 100% because we have sociopaths like former Premier Mike Harris, conservative, who privatized these places, and then when he gets out of office, he turns around and sits on the board of directors for them, right? And because capitalists are fucking sociopaths, they don't care if they have to abuse the elderly if it means that they get money for doing nothing, right? So with this story being revealed by our military, the question, what's your view on private for-profit long-term care homes, gets asked to the public. We should work to phase out private companies operating LTC homes. 60% of Canadians say yes. They can be good and we need private sector investment. 40% of Canadians say yes to that question. So that's a fairly strong majority in favor of phasing out private companies from the long-term care homes. I am genuinely of the position that the reason why the private sector investment is as high as 40% is because of the propaganda surrounding capitalism and how effective that propaganda is at deluding people in our populace. That the people who are answering this question are not answering it because they are actually looking at evidence or facts or anything like that. It's because they've bought into the reefer madness. Very straightforward in my perspective. Which do you agree more with? It's time for the federal government to get directly involved in long-term care. 58% of respondents said yes to this. versus provinces should be left to manage long-term care independently to their own standards, 42%. I generally have no opinion of this. Like, I think that some people think it's like, no, the provinces, some people... I generally fall on federal because I think a federated body can create standardization and makes it more difficult if somebody like a Kenny or a Ford gets in to privatize these places. Federated bodies are more difficult to privatize. And so that's the reason why I fall towards federal privatization. But if somebody were to say to me, like, no, I think the provinces should do it, I'm sure they have their arguments, and I'm sure that I don't think it's that outlandish. So the question, should long-term care for the elderly become a fully integrated part of the public healthcare system? 75% say yes. Now, remember, right? 40% responded that we need private sector investment, but even they said, so that means that 15% of those people are still saying yes, that the public healthcare system should integrate the long-term care for the elderly into it. 75%. And what this means from my perspective is that it's almost a guarantee that it will not happen. That our politicians do not respond to the will of the populace, that they are exclusively interested in their own power, and as well as placating and pleasing the billionaire class who owns them. That our political system has been largely bought by politicians, by billionaires in again a tacit agreement, right? It doesn't need to be as clumsy as like, I give you $1 million as a bribe, right? Like, it literally is just like, I'm a billionaire, I'm going to invite a politician to my giant mansion to be served by my servants, to come in the nicest car they've ever seen, maybe take them on a helicopter ride, all on the auspice of having a meeting, right? And we don't even need to really talk about anything. We can literally just shoot the shit, because I know as the billionaire, at the end of the day, when the conversation draws to a close, the question will be, do you want me as a friend or not? And every politician is going to say, yes, I do. And so when that billionaire goes, it'd be really great if this happened, the politician goes, yes, sir. And it is that cut and dry. And until we start electing people who are literally being elected and are actually willing to stand up to these billionaires and say, it can no longer be this way, that's not going to change. Certainly not in the Liberals. The Liberals are part of that system. And certainly not in the Conservatives. The Conservatives are completely subservient to that system as well. And I mean, I think Jagmeet can be bought. So we'll see. Aga says, absolutely, that's how they're making the profit. And the same can be said for the insurance companies that are ripping people off. And what do you get in return? And insurance companies, like car insurance is obscene. It's an obscenity to me that the government mandates you get car insurance and then doesn't provide a public option for said car insurance. Like that they then turn to private owners and say, this thing we've mandated that you must have, you're the ones in control of the insurance. Like, how is that anything but a grift? It's totally a grift. And there have been provinces throughout Canada who have addressed this. The NDP in Manitoba created a public option. And guess what? It was cheaper and more effective, right? It's very straightforward, right? Privatization is always more expensive for very simple reasons, which is that you have to, at the very least, pay for these worthless capitalists, right? And if you're going to pay for these worthless capitalists to do nothing, then that means you either need to raise prices or reduce services. And guess what? Capitalists do both, because there is no end to their greed. And so they're just going to milk the system for as much as they can, while diminishing your services as much as they can. And we're seeing that full-throated in the telecom conversation. We pay the most for telecommunications, we get the least amount of services, by a mile. By a mile. And it's completely because the capitalists own a monopoly on it. We should nationalize this, like we should nationalize most things. Mark, how you doing today, Mark? Good to see you, bud. 99% of people in power in every country are either bootlickers of other people in power or just distant descendants of rich white guys from the 1700s who inherited their family wealth after they died. Well, and Justin Trudeau is like case in point, right? Like his only political chip is that he has his father's name. That's it. He's a Trudeau. That's literally all he's bringing to the table. He has no ideas. He's somewhat charismatic, right? He's not bad looking, I suppose. But the truth of the matter is that people voted for him because he's a Trudeau, and that's it. Like that's that full stop. And there's something built, like Machiavelli talked about this, that if the option is between an unknown quantity with a family name and an unknown quantity without a family name, that the populace will go for the family name. It was completely Machiavelli 101 when Justin Trudeau got elected. Like, it was straight up, like, it proved the thesis. And like, but other than that, like, Trudeau is not, he's not very, there's a reason why Chrystia Freeland comes across as more politically savvy, because she is. She's the real politician, if you ask me. Chrystia Freeland, like, she's the one who's really coming up with the ideas, and she's the one that's really pushing things forward. Justin Trudeau just kind of does photo ops and likes to wear costumes, and he's more of the theatrical side of things, you know. Oh, hey, are you in Manitoba? Is that where you're at? Yeah, you pay $34 a month to get your car insured. I went and got my car insured in Moncton, New Brunswick, and it was like $150 a month. Like, no joke. Like, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful what they're doing. And like, the more you think about it, the more you're just like, why isn't this just a built-in part of the system, right? Like healthcare. Like, and this idea that like, oh, if you pay for people's car insurance, they'll be more reckless. It's like, it just doesn't bear out. It's just not the truth. We don't need to tolerate this shit. Yeah. Coming from the Ottawa Citizen, Ontario's back-to-school plan seems to be no plan at all. Ooh, big surprise. Big surprise. A capitalist without a plan. Who knew? What hold on, guys. Wait a second. The free market is going to make all these choices for us. Why make a plan? Like, we don't need to make a plan. The free market will just decide for us, right? Let chaos reign, right? The outcomes that happen are the outcomes that happen, and none of those outcomes will matter to us because we're rich, so who cares, right? Like, as rich white men, when these outcomes are worse for minorities, we can just say, well, that's because we are the superior race, right? That's our plan, to be like, yeah, white people are the superior race, and that bears out because the system that's a system that says let chaos reign, has bad outcomes for minority groups, and certainly has nothing to do with the systemic racism that we've built into the system, but has everything to do with our superiority, right? And it just doesn't affect them. That's the thing. That's the reason why they like the free market, because they're rich already. Hey, DJ, how you doing, bud? How you doing? And like, there is a threshold. Like, once you hit a certain threshold of having money, you can just use that money to pay for. It's like how rich people can do what they want in regards to, like, they can park their car where they want because a fine is irrelevant to them. If you give somebody a $200 ticket and they're a billionaire, they don't give a fuck at all. That's just the price of them parking there, right? And it's the same story here. Why make a plan? Why make a plan? Who cares? We will abandon the poor, obviously, because that's how the system will work. And, the minority groups that are disproportionately affected by this, oopsie-doo. Who gives a fuck? We're sending our kids to private school. Like, we don't give a fuck about this. Oh, here's a good news story, if you ask me. Disney to close almost all of its stores in Canada by the next month. Of course, everybody will grab their hair and be like, oh no, the jobs! But as somebody who literally is saying we need to slow down, we need to literally pay people to stay home, we need to actually stop doing shit, and certainly we need to stop producing plastic garbage. We need to stop producing just this scads and scads of grotesque plastic trash to put on trucks to have fossil fuels just spew into our environment so that we can put it into a storefront that we bombard with air conditioning and lights and music so that we can deceive our children into believing that this is fucking normal. Like, not normal. Not a normal society, guys. Not a fucking normal society. We are like a grotesque aberration. We're like a satirical version of a dystopian society. We are like the society that an actual society would make as a joke in order to be like, look what could happen, and everybody would be like, how unbelievable, how absurd. That's so stupid. No one will buy into this idea that a society will just make worthless plastic garbage that they will shove in their own children's faces in order to make their children go, yay, I love it, Daddy, to supplant the time and the love that they don't get to give their children because they're so busy working for jobs that are crushing them into the earth and robbing them of actually connecting with their own children. It's too unbelievable. Like, there's no way that any society would ever structure itself in this manner. Why wouldn't fathers and mothers simply stay home and treasure the time they have with their children to raise them and see them grow? That doesn't seem... Why send these kids to other locations in order to be trained by anyone other than their own parents? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And yet here we are, selling plastic junk. And I just cannot... I know for a fact that I am going to meet these little girls who have grown up to be young women, and we're going to be saying to them like, oh, hey, by the way, the climate change catastrophe is burning down your future. Too bad for you. And it has a lot to do with the fact that we're making all this plastic garbage so that you could go like, yay, when you were 5, right? And I can't imagine any other position than them looking at this and then looking at their parents and just being absolutely revolted and absolutely disgusted that they were forced to participate in this absurd demonic activity. Literally, we destroyed your future so that you could smile at us when you were 5. Like, what the fuck? So Disney shutting this shit down? Great, get the fuck out of here. But we know exactly what Disney's gonna do. They're just gonna, like, adopt the Amazon model, right? And so any little girl that wants to get a hold of this plastic trash that they're making, now it'll get delivered to them by like a drone or something, right? Like, and it's just like yet another, we can't possibly fathom and imagine living in a universe where we just are chill. Like, we can't possibly imagine just being in a place where we aren't attempting to sell garbage to one another. Like, it's just like, it's just such, it's like a parody society we live in. Like, I feel like we are actually the alternative universe that was created by somebody attempting to make a parody of the universe that they live in. That's how I feel. That, like, we are just the fucking joke. That we're not the real society, we're just the fake, made-up society. Yeah, businesses are unethical. Businesses exist to make profit. They do this in 2 ways. Manipulating somebody into buying unnecessary things and holding necessary things for ransom. That's exactly right, DJ. That's exactly right. And that's well stated, right? That, like, well, and we're so easy to deceive. And I'm as guilty as this as anybody, right? That we all have this sort of void inside of us, this like emptiness that exists inside of us that bears investigation, right? That bears a look and bears a sit down and an exploration and a contemplation and a meditation and all of these things. But rather than, but doing that is so terrifying to us, right? It's so terrifying to stare into this deep, limitless, empty void that exists within us. It's so scary that we are literally willing to create junk and garbage and trash and digital hallucinations to bombard our brains with that literally are destroying us so that we don't need to do it. That, like, humanity needs a timeout. Like, especially the Westerners. We need a big old fat timeout. We need to go sit on a bench in the corner and stare at the wall for a little bit. We need a big old fucking timeout, right? And all the baby men who are going to be like, but my big truck and all the... Those guys need to sit in the fucking corner and stare at the wall. They just need to stare at the fucking wall. Women do deserve jobs, but their duties are as homemaker first. It's kind of difficult to do that when a household where only one person is working is simply unsustainable. Exactly, right? Like, this idea that Republicans and conservatives give a shit at all about family values. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about that at all. What Republicans and conservatives are talking about when they say family values is suppressing women. That's what they're saying. They're saying oppressing women. When they say family values, all they mean is women are beneath men. That's it, right? Because if they actually gave a shit about family values, this idea that everybody in the household is going to work would be fucking abhorrent to them. It would be disgraceful. It would be disgusting to them if they actually gave a shit about these family values that they're talking about. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck about that at all. Right? They're just speaking to the deepest bigots and the racists that live amongst them. That's it. Hey Dan, how you doing, bud? Yeah, if you can't sit and stare at the wall for a while, you're a child. Yeah, I think that's actually right. Right? Like, you know, you've got to be able to chill out and just like, and to like do shit that you don't want to do. Right? Like, this is the thing that's so maddening about the Petersonian crowd, is that they are right about this. You do have to clean your room. Like, you do have to do your dishes. You do have to do these things. You do have to take care of your environment first. But where they kind of stop in their evaluation or their contemplation is that they don't consider that it's possible we've already done that. Right? It's possible that we've already taken care of all of that. And now we are interested in improving the society outside of these boundaries. But because they don't have that contemplation, that's what makes them sound like dumb idiots. Ugh, Disney. I got my puppy. He's looking right at me right here. How you doing, bud? You doing good? You're a good boy. You're a good boy. He's not going to let me pick him up. I'd pick him up and show him to you guys, but he's been getting real against that idea. So I'm gonna. I still cannot believe this shit with this tank. Fuck. That's so fucking annoying, dude. Okay. I had so many Reddit tabs open. Yes, here's a great news. An alarming exodus. Ontario nursing sector slammed with staffing shortage as many rethink careers. Oh, you mean in the middle of the pandemic, we slashed the nursing budget, we slashed the healthcare budget, because I'm Doug Ford and I'm a fucking sociopath. And in the middle of a pandemic, people didn't like that? What? How many more nurses need to injure their backs from continuously working short-staffed before we get Ford Nation to repeal Bill 125? How many more need to quit? But this is exactly what I'm saying we need to do. It's disappointing that it's happening in the nursing sector. It's disappointing that it's happening in the healthcare sector. But my opinion, of course, is that this is exactly what the Ford government wants, right? This is exactly in line with how conservatives think. Defund healthcare so it stops working, defund public systems so they stop working, and then the solution that you present is privatization. That's the goal here. They want people to exit. They want the system to stop working. They want things to be worse so that when people stand up and say, hey, the system stopped working, instead of the solution being, yeah, we should probably increase funding to that thing, right? Or pointing out even that, of course the system's not working because we defunded it, right? Instead of saying any of that, they say, yep, that's because government doesn't work and we need to privatize, right? Because these fucking guys are nightmare sociopaths. They only care about money for themselves. They do not give a fuck about us. And so these nurses are right to walk out the door. But I wish they would go on strike. I wish that they would just go on strike. And I wish that they would fight along those lines instead. But the reality is that these people are burnt out. These people are burnt out. Morale is low. People are so discouraged, right? There are not enough ICU nurses in Ontario, and many existing experienced nurses are taking some time off, or people are just quitting because of the stress and pandemic and very, very poor working conditions. This is Ford Nation, guys. Hashtag this is Ford Nation. For real. This is exactly the society that they want. This is what they want. This is what conservatives want. They're not interested in helping anybody because they're fucking sociopaths. Ugh. Yeah. Nurses feel let down. Picket against Alberta government's proposed rollback. Wow. Nurses and doctors are protesting in the places where conservatives are. What's happening, guys? Oh, it's weird how government doesn't work in conservative places, right? It's weird how that happens, eh? But we're too we're too fucking stupid to figure this out as a people. This privatization grift has been pitched to us over and over and over again, and we just keep swallowing it. We're so fucking stupid. It's so gullible at this point. You've got to be so dumb to actually be yeah, we should let a private interest come in and take control of this. Yeah, that's definitely going to be an improvement. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. Ugh. I'm really riled up, man. I'm really riled up today. I'm feeling spicy today, man. I'm feeling fucking spicy today. And my dog can feel it. He's looking at me and he thinks I'm talking to him. That's what's going on. And so I'm feeling spicy today. Yeah. Israel attacked Syria, Gaza, and Iraq in the span of 24 hours. Nation of godless cowards. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Because I feel like it was just spot on. Just spot on the right point. Fucking unbelievable. Oh yeah, and this is a great statement coming out of Brutal Regime Apocalyptic Dread. How's that for a fucking Twitter handle? According to many Americans, if you are poor in a socialistic country, it's the socialistic government's fault. But if you're poor in America, that's your fault. Okay, I think I've got enough. I've probably got enough people in here. Yeah, okay, we'll do it. I found this, and I am super. Okay, here's my take. First of all, I am angry that these guys actually made this thing that I really, really like. That I really, really like, and it's brilliantly put together. And I'm mad because I didn't do this first. And these guys say a lot of the shit that I've been saying, but he says it with a British accent, and so it sounds all fancy and likable. Boo! Anyway, this is a fucking brilliant piece of art. I'm gonna go skip to the loo. I'll be right back. It's 11 minutes, so enjoy.
Almost a perfect expression of decadence. Here we have this man, richest man there's ever been, like a Roman emperor on speed, extracting money from his empire in order to pursue the vanity project of all vanity projects, sending himself into space. There's something particularly ironic about Jeff Bezos pouring billions into getting himself into space while promoting the idea that space travel will somehow save us from environmental catastrophe at home. This is a man who runs a corporation called Amazon, named after one of the greatest ecosystems on Earth, which is being hammered by climate breakdown, among other forces, and seeing runaway forest fires, potentially the cascading ecological collapse caused by a combination of deforestation and climate breakdown. And part of that is being caused by the activities of corporations such as, let me think, Amazon. There are some men who cannot be content unless they are burning phenomenal quantities of fossil fuel. And the dream of billionaires now is to burn those quantities of fossil fuel in order to escape the Earth's orbit and go into space. And this dream is entirely consistent with the deeper billionaire fantasy, which is of exit, of escape. They have sought successfully to escape from the constraints of the nation state. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to be regulated. So they move their business through tax havens and secrecy regimes offshore. They're an offshore elite. Everything about them is offshore. And now they want to be off-planet. When Jeff stepped out of his giant phallus, he said something which could be seen as disarmingly honest, or perhaps it reflects a complete absence of self-knowledge, but he said,
I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, because you guys paid for all of this.
They did pay for it. They paid for it in terms of the gross exploitation of their labour, which Amazon engineers, forcing them to piss in bottles because they don't even have time for toilet breaks.
Every Amazon employee, thank you from the bottom of my heart very much.
So Richard Branson, another member of the giant metal phallus class, says, if we can do this, imagine what else we can do. Well, we don't have to imagine it. We've seen what else Richard Branson has done, and none of it is pretty. Trying to move into the NHS, suing the government for not giving him the contracts that he wants, demanding bailouts for his airline company, and putting the money to send himself up into space. And when he says we, who does he mean by we? There's no we in Richard Branson. He's the biggest self-publicist who ever existed. It's all about me with Richard Branson. This is for us. This is for planet Earth. This is for everyone. No, it's not. This is a billionaire's game.
We're building a road to space so that future generations can build the future.
The amazing thing about these billionaires is just how stupid they are.
We live on this beautiful planet. It's the most beautiful planet in the solar system by far. And we have to keep it safe and protect it. And the way to do that is slowly over decades to move all heavy industry, all polluting industry out into space.
Christ.
That's what we're going to do so we can keep this planet the gem that it is.
Here's Jeff Bezos saying, we can solve the Earth's problems by building a road into space and shift all the damaging industries into space. I mean, the most basic calculus, just on the back of your hand with a baro, you could work out that that would cause massively greater impacts than any of the industries are causing here on Earth. And the idea that putting someone like Jeff Bezos in charge of some space road project, which incidentally is technically entirely infeasible, when he's made such a horrendous mess of planet Earth already, is a good idea, could only have come from the mouth of an ass like Jeff Bezos. Bill Gates recently wrote a book saying, this is what we can do to solve climate breakdown. He listed all these techno fixes, which were basically just a way of resolving his own guilt trip about his several private jets and his collection of supercars, disproportionately, to a far greater extent than anyone else on Earth. They are responsible for the greatest crisis humanity has ever faced, a crisis now manifested in the disastrous floods in Germany and Belgium, in the heat dome over the western seaboard of North America, in the floods in Bangladesh, in the sea actually catching fire as a result of gas explosions. If this has a human face, it's the face of those billionaires. I just see them as parasites, people who are sucking the lifeblood of the planet dry. But now they want to ramp this up even further and say, we're not going to just have this unsustainable luxury on this planet. We're going to extend our private luxury into space. We're going to have rockets and pour tons and tons of fossil fuel into those rockets and get ourselves into orbit. This is acceptable because all of you could do this one day.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship. If we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
Sorry, no, all of us can't. The only reason they can do it is that all of us aren't doing it. Because if all of us tried to do it, we would cook the planet in an instant. So the dream they're selling us, nightmarish as it may be, can't actually be achieved anyway. So another crucial question here is, how did they get so rich that they could build their own space rockets? By not paying their taxes. What we see again and again with some of the richest people on Earth is that they are some of the most successful tax avoiders on Earth. They pay far less in percentage terms than I do, than you do. On billions of dollars worth of profits in the EU and the United States, Amazon paid 0 corporation tax. And so they can then spend that money on these ridiculous vanity projects, money which should belong to us, money which should be paying for the health service, money which should be paying for education, money which should be paying for basic human welfare, is instead being squandered on these giant phalluses which they're sending up to space with themselves inside. All it is a massive ego project for men who seem to have something missing. They can't be content with the things that might content the rest of us. Love, self-knowledge, self-acceptance. These things just don't seem to be enough for them. And why might this be? Well, we can argue about nature, about nurture, what the balance between them might be. But it does seem to me that gaining extreme wealth is like acquiring some kind of brain injury. It seems to shut down parts of the human brain. You become less empathetic, less altruistic. There's a lot of science showing the extraordinary differences between very rich people and ordinary people in terms of their empathy and in terms of their altruism, in terms of their ability to understand the lives of others. Something very bad happens to you when you become exceedingly rich. And I think that something shuts off your opportunities for contentment by ordinary means. You must have more and more. The world literally is not enough. They would literally trade the only planet we know that could support us, almost certainly the only planet anywhere that could support us, for a planet which patently could not, on which we would have to live like tadpoles in a jam jar, under the total control of whoever owns that jam jar. And who might that be? Yes, the billionaires! People like Jeff.
This is a very different kind of space colony. Let's take a look at what they might look like inside. High-speed transport, agricultural areas. They don't have to have the same gravity. You could have a recreational one that keeps 0 G so that you can go flying with your own wings.
Christ.
These are shirt-sleeve environments. This is Maui on its best day all year long. No rain, no storms, no earthquakes.
I mean, they think, we can escape all the troubles on Earth. We can leave all those problems of power behind. If we had to live in a controlled environment whose slightest fluctuation would be fatal to us, and if that environment was controlled by those who built it, in other words, those with the money, we would live under their total, unmediated control. With a flick of a switch, they could decide they didn't like their experiment and kill us all. Their godlike powers would exceed by orders of magnitude even the powers they possess on this planet. And yet somehow this has been sold to us as some kind of desirable future, as something we should aspire to, something aspirational. That's not a dream, that's a nightmare.
But these are beautiful. People are going to want to live here.
We're told that our future lies in space exploration. Our future lies in Earth exploration. We've scarcely even mapped the soils on the Earth's surface. We don't even know what's where. let alone how we can use it in ways which don't destroy that soil, the very basis of our subsistence. We are remarkably ignorant about life forms on this planet, about ecosystems on this planet, and that ignorance helps to fuel our destruction. If we put our efforts into knowing and understanding and loving this planet, rather than pouring billions into flattering the ego of billionaires, if instead of allowing them to be billionaires, because every billionaire is a policy failure, we redistributed that wealth and sought the general well-being and prosperity of humankind, we would all be so much better off. I work with Double Down News because it bursts out of that tiny, limited box which the media creates and allows us to see aspects of the world which we're not being shown by other broadcasters. So please support Double Down through Patreon and support the alternative we so desperately need.
Right? Like really a brilliant piece of work, right? I gotta bookmark this one. Like that's a brilliant piece of work. Fuck these guys for doing it better than me. I'm gonna put that in the chat so that you guys have access to the link itself. And I'm also gonna put it in the Discord. Reminding everybody, if you're a long-time listener, if you're just coming in, if you donate even $1 to the Patreon, you can be involved in the Discord. It is like ground zero. Right now, I'll be straight up honest with you, we're real well spread out as a community. We're real well spread out. I got people in Atlanta, I got people in British Columbia, I got people in Arkansas, I got people in Ohio, I got people all over the place. But it is only a matter of time until we manage to actually forge something together and actually start to hammer on the walls of capitalism, right? And right now, each and every one of you, right? I know there are people out there who are looking for lampposts, right? They're in the darkness and they're looking for lampposts. And I encourage every single one of you to remember, you are the lamppost. People are out there in the dark looking for people, looking for lampposts. Well, that's you, all right? And that it is our prerogative to shine the way for others. So that's where we're at right now. But please consider donate $1 to the Patreon in the description. If you are donating $1, maybe make it $2, right? And also, hey, it makes me feel good about myself. So there's that too. Oh yeah, no kidding. Eh? Onward, G Mars looks like paradise. And don't you think Jeff Bezos just sounds like a total fucking bro dude? Like anytime I listen to this guy actually talk, he's just like, yeah, bruh. Yeah, take me seriously, bruh.
Space colony. Let's take a look at what they might look like inside.
Let's take a look how they might look inside, brah. Right? Like, he sounds like fucking Bill and Ted. Hey, Andrew, how you doing, bud? Delivering pizza 6 days a week and watching you. Peak irony, peak late stage capitalism. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Like, pizza, like... pizza delivery, right? Like, you're delivering food to other people who probably also work in places where they get food delivered, or they do food delivery. Like, that's our whole economy. We're just delivering shit to each other. I'm glad you're here, bud. DJ, one of the greatest illusions of the modern times has been to trick millions of voters into believing that billionaires and multimillionaires actually represent the interests of ordinary people, rather than becoming grotesquely wealthy from their exploitation. Oh yeah, share this one around, DJ, for sure. I love this one. I'm going to put this one on Twitter. So, you might see this more than once on this channel, because I just think, like, that's real concise. Like, that's real tight what they put together here. This is a brilliantly done script. They found like a beautiful British man, not a beautiful British man, but just like a refined, what's the word? I'm like, dignified. I did it. I made it. I did it. A dignified looking British man, right, with his beautiful British voice, right? Ugh. So jealous of these British people. They can say anything and people are just like, swoon. And so when they actually talk about issues that are serious, people are like, that's very serious. Oh my God, that's very serious. It's like David Attenborough's whole career being British. And but you're absolutely, like, people haven't quite recognized that the billionaire and millionaire class is creating they've created a new nation, that they are more powerful than nations, that they've created a place called Richistan, right, where that they don't give a fuck about us because they're not part of our nation anymore, right? That they just come over here to enslave us. Hey Matthias, how you doing? I like how he highlighted their inability to feel empathy. Psychology calls these people psychopaths. Well, and all the research is true. They even showed the studies, right? Like, we know that this is the case. That if you gain way more wealth than everyone else, and we're not quite sure where the line is, but if you gain this kind of wealth, you just completely detach. You completely detach from them, and you lose the ability to empathize completely. Like, there's a reason why every single religious organization that's ever existed on the face of the planet is like, hey, maybe give your money away, right? Hey, you know that money you've got? Maybe think about giving it away, right? And the act of giving the money away actually humanizes you. It actually turns you into an empathetic creature, right? The act of, like, but Jeff Bezos is so detached and sociopathic that when he does charity, he does it by taking $100 million and giving it to one of his media buddies. And he calls that charity, right? It's like completely detached from reality. And he expects everybody to be like, oh, wow, Jeff Bezos gave $100 million to his media buddy. And you're like, dude, that's not charity. Like, that's a fucking bribe. Like, that's what that is. That's a bribe. Like, charity would be like going into a place where people can't have food and giving them food. That would be charity. Oh yeah, Onward. I didn't even think about it. I bet you've got the deep South accent. You got this going on, a little bit of that. That's not really Georgia. Is it like that? Is a bit like that, little twang going on, Georgia. Oh well, hi there. I'm from Georgia. Well, golly gee and jamboree. Oh yeah, dude. I bought a hat that I 100% bought when I was just camping. I was desperate. I needed a hat. And so I bought this hat, and it's kind of a cowboy hat. It's got that kind of cowboy hat sort of vibe. And I know for a fact that when I put this hat on, people are immediately like, white supremacist. White supremacist. White supremacist, you guys. I know for a fact that people look at me that way. So I try not to wear it that often because it's got a real rural country rustic vibe about it. But at the same time, I like the hat. It's a good hat. It does what a hat should do. I need to get like a nice fun sun hat is what I need. Oh, the only reason, so Jeff Bezos' "you guys all paid for this" quip after a brief trip in space was an unexpected endorsement of Karl Marx's theory of surplus value. The only reason why I shared this particular one is that the picture they decided to use for Jeff Bezos, he looks insane. Like, this picture that they've got of him is like, literally, like, what he's watching is he's watching, like, he's Lex Luthor watching Superman explode. His plan is finally coming to fruition. And, like, the big blaring soundtrack's like, doo, 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 while he's watching, like, his red kryptonite beam shoot into Superman's chest, and he's like a moment away from, like, breaking into a maniacal, horrific laughter at the destruction of his alien adversary. Because Jeff Bezos, let's be straight, Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor, right? Like, he is Lex Luthor. If a fucking alien were to suddenly show up and start thwarting Jeff Bezos's plans, I would be completely fucking fine with it. I would be reporting that shit as if it was completely goddamn normal. I would be like, oh, well, guys, looks like, as expected, Superman has finally shown up. Jeff Bezos better look out. Superman is, traditionally, according to the lore, Superman is a thorn in the side of people like Jeff Bezos. So, looks like Superman's done it again. Like, things are so fucking batty at this point. I'm in. I'm fucking in. Let's go, Superman. Let's go. If the aliens are out there and if they can hear me, just dress one of you guys up in pajamas and start doing Superman kind of stuff. We'll totally go for this. We'll totally go for this. Like, we are this stupid and we are this, like, manipulatable. If the aliens are out there, they're not going to do that shit. They're not interested in manipulating us. They're not interested in that kind of toy. Like, they're not going to fucking do that shit. And the only reason they would is because they're, like, so bored. Like, oh, man, we're so bored. Buffalo may remove mayor's office to prevent socialist India Walton from taking office in November. What the fuck did you just say? Onward. The shit that comes out of you is unbelievable, dude. What? Buffalo may remove mayor's office. Like, just the mayor's office. Just what the actual... And replace it with what? Like, you need a mayor. Like, you need a leader of your city. You can't just not have a mayor. What? Oh, it's for her. I know. Well, you know what? You are onward to dystopia after all. So I feel like you're on the side of it. Like, so this woman here, just for a little bit of background for those who are unfamiliar, India Walton is on the trajectory and on track to be the first explicitly socialist mayor to be elected in, I believe, the state, or it could be like America, and they'll probably say it, but at least in the state, for about 60 years. It would be a real seminal moment. The Buffalo Common Council is studying a change in the city's form of government which would abolish the office of mayor. Totally normal society, guys. Like, totally fucking normal, eh? What a normal place that we all live in. Hey, DM, how you doing today, bud? Hey, John, Milo, and everyone. Oh, that's sweet of you. Just wanted to jump and say hello. Had to do some chores around the apartment. Pile of dishes to wash. I find washing dishes very calming. I'm glad, dude. I'm glad. That's the way to do it, right? To do your chores. And I for the longest time, my bedroom was a complete catastrophe because I had just moved in and it's like the first time I've been living by myself for forever. Like, went through a recent breakup, all that kind of shit, and just the bedroom was like a total disaster. And then like last week, I was just like, okay, just flipping do it. And I did it, and boy, do I feel good about myself. I feel better about myself. I feel nice about myself. I feel like it's because, like, when you've got something like that in your living space where there's like this, your bedroom's a disaster, your kitchen's a disaster, you haven't cleaned up your bathroom or something. It's like you've got a secret that you don't want anybody to see, you know. And if they do see it, you're gonna be ashamed of it. Oh, it's gonna be like, oh, shameful, right? And let's be honest, if I want to start dating and maybe bringing the ladies over, you know, I gotta fucking clean this fucking bedroom up. So good for you, DM. Good for you, bud. And I'm glad that you're choosing JON Radio for all your John-related content. All John, all the time. JON Radio. This is so fucking stupid, dude. Like, this is the dumbest. Is this dumber than trucks are bigger than tanks? Trucks are bigger than tanks. For those of you just coming in, by the way, the trucks that we are selling are bigger than the tanks we used in World War II. Just in case you thought we were totally fucking normal. Hey, Demand Better, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Good to see you. Ford truck. Buffalo may actually eliminate the mayor's office and replace it with what? They're not being very explicit about this. Like, and replace it with what? Like, they're just gonna straight up just put a monarchy in. That's what they're gonna do. They're just gonna get rid of the monarchy is what they're gonna do. They'll probably make it like a council, right? Like that it'll be like the city will actually be like just like Toronto City Council more or less does run this way. That the mayor's office doesn't actually have that much power here in Toronto, and that the mayor exists as a symbolic position, but also as a way to sort of set the agenda, so to speak, and attempt to organize the city councilors. That's the role of mayor. But to outright and explicitly eliminate the office right as a socialist is about to take power, it's not a good look, Buffalo. Not a good look. Oh, please do, Onward. Please do. Let's get fucking barbaric dumb. Let's get stupid. Like this is dumb. Like this is dumb. This is literally like tanks are bigger, trucks are bigger than World War II tanks. Dumb. Like that's fucking dumb. Psycho Jeff Bezos. Climate change. Why we can't trust mainstream media. I mean, does it need to actually be stated any longer? Like, the very people who are responsible for causing climate change own the media that are trying to convince us that climate change doesn't exist. It's fairly straightforward. It's fairly straightforward. Like, and he's got like this great pamphlet. I shouldn't shit on this at all. Like, this is a great pamphlet. Like, here's a downloadable PDF of the pamphlet. Oh, I know my little puppy pants. And just like, look. This is why the arts are important. Because when intellectuals make pamphlets, they make them look like this. Nobody's gonna read this. Nobody's gonna fucking read this. Right? Like, people need, like, snappy, snap, snap, snap. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And it's got to be on, like, one page that they can be like, and then flip over and, like, and that's it. They're not going to read your, 1, 2, 3, 4 page essay. Like, this is an essay. They're not going to read this. No one's going to read this. And so, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do it right now. Obviously, I'm going to take this and I am going to just like slash the shit out of it. And I'm just going to like remake this guy's document for him so that I can be like, there you go, bud. Good old fashioned. And it can't be like a 2-pager that's like this. It's got to literally be like the slender, like one shot, turn it over one shot. That's the best that anyone will give you ever. And even then, they're not going to read the whole thing. You know what I wouldn't complain about if you guys are out there and you're feeling like, hey, let's not always wallow. Like, if you can find a feel-good story, not a feel-good story, but like if you can find a nice story, I will definitely talk about that. Like, we need to pepper some niceness in here because there is nice stuff happening, right? Especially if the nice things are happening at the expense of people. Like, fuck humans. Fuck our stupidness. We're so fucking cringy and embarrassing. We're gonna go to Mars, bro. Let's go, bro. And there's gonna be, like, beautiful space station shit. Everything's gonna be totally nice, bro. It's totally the truth. Like, what the fuck is wrong with us? Yeah. The GOP literally wants schools to teach the future generation the history of America by lying about the history of America. If that isn't the most on-brand sentiment. The midterm election's coming up soon, isn't it? Like, American elections are like never-ending and perpetual. They just don't ever stop. They're just constant, like a constant thrum of elections. Like, it's a miracle they get it. Well, they don't get anything done. So I guess that's that, right? So here we go. This is exactly the shit that we knew was going to happen. Learning to live with COVID. Why some experts think it's time to start getting back to normal. And of course, some experts are usually fucking neo-Nazis, right? Like, Carrie Bowman, who lives in downtown Toronto, has been sensing something in the air lately. Something is different, he said. Something is missing. People are still masking and following public health protocols for the most part, but there's much less anxiety. People are a lot more relaxed. We have to be honest with people about the fact that we cannot eliminate COVID. Let's be clear. We have to be honest with people about the fact that we will not spend the resources to eliminate COVID. Like, that's what's actually happening, right? Like, we could. Of course we could. We absolutely could. We've eradicated other diseases. We know how to do it. We just don't want to, right? We just don't want to. We are going to have to learn to accept the existence of COVID and find ways to cope with it, just as we already do with the flu, brah. They keep using this flu as the we're just gonna live with we'll just live with COVID, yo. We'll just live with it, right? We'll just live with polio, bro. Hey William, how you doing? How about just getting rid of useless city council and the lack of work they do and drop social issues onto Ontario Works or similar government system? I don't know. I feel like you're just transferring the problem into another layer. That's it. You're just like, the problem will still exist, and the problem is that like, at least this way the people are responsive to some kind of electoral mechanism. I'm always very skeptical of just dropping political powers into unelected structures. Although I don't hate the idea that, like, some things are just under the purview of, like, Ontario Works. Oh my goodness. I really wish I could show you guys my dog. He's so cute. He's so cute and lovely, and he always looks up at me, and he's got this, like, beautiful, beautiful, loving eyes, and he's just like, I love you so much, John. And I'm just like, I love you too, Milo. I love you too, my little guy. I gotta get, like, a webcam that I can actually move around, and I just, like, show them to you. You guys will all just be like, ah! My subscriber count will explode. Yeah, just learn to live with COVID like you did with the 1918 Spanish flu and German measles and the Black Plague. And, like, you know, like, and let's all be honest about why they're saying this to us, right? They're saying this to us because they fundamentally are saying, get back to work. Get back to work, right? Economies must go on. Economies must go on. And they've buried it. The hard way of doing that is lockdown, but that's not sustainable for billionaires and their stupid economy that sucks. Economies must go on. No, they don't. Like, that's the big lie. This economy doesn't need to go on. This economy can die, right? This economy should die. This economy is a shambling corpse that's just walking around being like, argh. Like, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the perfect avatars for this economy because they're deluded, demented, sociopathic monster creatures. Just going around being like, come on, man, that's a bunch of malarkey. Like, they're like this economy is a zombie. We need to fucking cap it in the head and bury it. Just burn the shit out of this. Like, if we don't burn this economy down, this economy burns us down. It's literally how it goes. Like, and I'm not saying literally as metaphorical. I'm saying it is literally how it happens. That if we don't burn this economy down, this economy burns us down. Very straightforward. And, like, I can't stand when people say to me, when I get to talking about this, people say to me, like, oh, John, sounds to me like you want to collapse the economy. And I say, yes. Fuck yes, of course I want to collapse the economy. Look at how shitty this is. Look at how stupid this economy is. Okay. You're such a good little boy. Oh my God, he knows that I'm going to pick him up, and so he runs under the table like a little... Yeah, we need a war economy. We need a war economy, plain and simple. Black and white. Like, how is climate change not a national security issue? Where are our generals? Where are our admirals? Where are our leaders? Where are the military personnel standing up and saying, hey, this is actually like a major fucking national security issue? How is this not a national security issue? Like, it's blistering to me. It's insane to me that our military is just like looking up at the clouds, scratching their nose, when the one job they have, which is to protect the citizenry from outside threats, and they're just letting this one slide right under the radar. They're literally like, well, if it's a dude wearing jackboots, I know what to do, but if it's the burning heat of the sun because ExxonMobil needs to make an extra dollar, right? Like, it is just like the transition in from like ancient warfare into World War I warfare. That like we literally were just like, oh, there's a Gatling gun, just send more men at it, it's fine. No, it can't possibly kill them all. Yeah, it can. Fuck yeah, it can. Oh, send another wave. Like, yeah, it can. And like, we just seem completely incapable. But I mean, what do you expect from like, we are the villains of this story. Like, we are the Nazis on the world stage. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like, we are obviously the villains of this story. And big fucking surprise, the villains of the story can't contemplate some sort of external threat that is larger and more powerful than them. Right? Like, and that's fundamentally what it comes down to, is that our hubris and our arrogance refuses to allow us to perceive a threat that is larger than we are, or larger even than humanity. And it won't be until the boot of God himself steps on the face of America that the average America will go, oh, golly gee, maybe we should do something about that. Jeez fucking Louise. And these sorts of things, I consider this a continuation of the abuse. I consider this gaslighting. I consider this full-scale abuse. This is the same kind of abuse that keeps people out of these jobs. This is the same kind of abuse that keeps people away from getting these shitty minimum wage jobs, because they're gaslighting us, they're shitting on us, and they're literally saying, like, yeah, we should just let a deadly pandemic continue to exist in our society and mutate and kill more people for the economy. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Ugh. Oh yeah, I had this one open because there was something here. He said, proud to announce today, this is John Tory, literally like days after he's cleared the encampments. Proud to announce today that more than 80% of Toronto adults have received their first shot. And it's like they received their first shot, and I sort of think, how does that turn into a joke where we're talking about cops punching people? Like, I'll give you your first shot, like that kind of thing. You know? Anyway. Joke landed. I did it. Aga, have you seen the movie Idiocracy? It perfectly captures the reasons why we're letting things slide by us again and again. I've never seen this movie, but it's one of those movies that's like so kind of pervasive in the culture and so around us that I feel like I have seen it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we all know the movie Star Wars. Even if you've never seen Star Wars, you know how that movie goes. Like, you if you've never seen like the 1980s Superman, you know what the 1980s Superman is. Like, you know what it looks like. So, maybe I should watch it though. I am always looking for good movies to sit down and like actually, especially these days when like our culture is essentially dead and we're just constantly rewatching like, you know, Captain America and Spider-Man reboots. Like, we don't actually have ideas or thoughts, or, you know, like we're just sort of caught in this masturbatorial, incestuous thought cycle. Oh, another Disney reboot. Oh, it's Mulan this time. Yeah, that'll be better somehow, or different, or anything, or matter at all, or have any effect on who we are as people, right? As if they are actually going to like hit the same kind of place that they hit the first time. Throw a dart at the map of Central and South America and you will land on a country that we destabilized through sanctions, funding juntas, or other nefarious means. But I'm sure post-revolutionary Cuba would be different. Yeah. Like, I wish that I could poll you guys. I wish I could just throw a poll up. Oh, can I? Holy cow, I can? No way. Oh, this is awesome. I'm going to do this all the time. Do you think America will invade Cuba? Dude. Does this pop up, or where does this go? I have no idea where that just went. Okay. Dang it. I was hoping that would like pop up. Oh! I don't know how this worked. Do you type in yes? What happens? Does it like pop up somewhere? I have no idea what's going on. One of the guys on Chapo said we'll only get a good courtroom drama if Aquaman takes Superman to court. Absolutely. Absolutely, I think that's true. But like, does it pop up? Like, how does it pop up on your screen? I have no idea what it looks like. So it like pops up on your screen and you just click yes. Okay, perfect. Fucking perfect. I mean, there's not that many of you in here right now, I don't think. Yeah, there's only 7 of you in here, so this isn't... Pops up in the chat. Okay, awesome. Fucking awesome. I am going to use this polling thing all the fucking time. Amazing. Fucking amazing. Learning shit. Fucking, that's so fucking... Technology is so fucking cool sometimes. Oh, yeah. This right here, written by Robert Mitchell, is actually like prose poetry. This is actually a work of art right here. I have never given Jeff Bezos a moment's thought before this week. I'm always interested in extraordinary achievement and often admire it. I am fascinated by what extraordinary achievers understand and how involved they are as people. Looking at him in his astronaut costume and his cowboy hat and his Omega Speedmaster moon watch, coming out of his penis craft, being greeted by his ling cod-lipped girlfriend, dipped in oversized diamonds, I saw a man completely without a sense of irony. Not a man aware that he had been entrusted with the greatest fortune in human history to benefit all of humanity, but a small, narcissistic buffoon, unaware that the universe is 10 trillion light years wide, and he just spent $5 billion to fly 60 miles through it, so the whole world could look at him at once and see what a truly small man he is, and hear his Kermit the Frog voice declare that his big plan is to pollute space. Like, Bazinga, saving it. And I do think that this Jeff Bezos flying to space moment is actually a historical shift. That people are finally like looking at the situation and just being like, no, it cannot be like this. It cannot be this way. On the Cuba question, most of you say yes. I think that's literally one person said no. One person said no. I don't know where I land on it, honestly. I don't know. Like, I mean, they're ramping up the sanctions, but like, I don't think that's going to be successful. That the Cuban people and communist countries usually are far more resilient than capitalist nations and fascist nations give them credit for, right? And like the Cubans know what's happening, right? The Cubans know what's happening. Well, then it does a little pop-up here and says, do you think the Americans will invade Cuba? And you're like, there's a yes, no. Well, dang it. I love it. I love it. And so, like, in the end, the Americans are finally just going to, like, throw up their hands and just be like, well, I guess we just invade, right? Like, we just go in. Like, it's only going to take somebody like I was reading some of the behind the scenes. Like, we have these recordings from Nixon's office. We've got these recordings from Nixon's office where he's talking to Kissinger about bombing Vietnam. And, like, Nixon was a fucking sociopath. Like, this guy was a nightmare. He literally was... Kissinger was having to talk Nixon down from using nuclear bombs. That Nixon wanted to use nuclear bombs. And Kissinger was like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. That would not go well for you. People would definitely turn against you if you did that. And Nixon would like bluster about it. He would be like, if we use the nuclear bombs, people would respect us, and we would... No, we need to do something big, Henry. We need to do something big so that all the people of the world know that we're America, damn it. You know, like, fuck. Jesus Christ, dude. Calm the fuck down. And all it's going to take is a Nixon, right? All it's going to take is some guy like that who's just like, why are we fucking messing around with these Cubans? We should just... Anyone want to see a Jordan Peterson blooper? Do I ever, dude? Do I ever? Do I need to search something up, or you got it in the Discord? Oh, I so for sure want to see this, dude. What am I searching? You let me know. I love fucking... First of all, I love Jordan Peterson stuff. I've got a bit of an obsession. I'll admit it. Oh, this is actually really good. This is a really good clip. Okay. I'm gonna... so this is Evo Morales, was asked if China and Russia are imperialist. And so I'm gonna read this because some of you are just listening.
Rusia también es imperio.
Sorry. I would say that they are developed countries that are a power. What does an empire do? I agree with the comrade, an empire invades. An empire installs military bases. I'm going to slow down a little bit. An empire blackmails the development of a country. Like the United States, why is the United States an empire? They use the International Monetary Fund and say if you want a loan or any help, then first you have to privatize your natural resources. Why? So they can loot. I haven't seen any military bases of China nor Russia anywhere in Latin America. There aren't any. Yes, in some countries, Russia is confronting the military bases of the United States to get them out. That's the fight, and it's on the request of the power. That's the crucial difference. What's an empire and what's a power? Anyone can be a power. Look, comrades, if we fulfill our goal of industrializing lithium, because we have a plan to, by 2028 to 2030, have 40 lithium plants. Bolivia with lithium will be a power in that industry. That's not a hope. It's a task. So, one thing is a developed power, another thing is an empire. Empire is that which invades countries. I repeat again, I've never seen Russia or China or India, which is also a power, with those military bases. That's the difference with the US empire. And I think that that's like a really clean talking point. It's definitely something like, yeah, hey, like, China and Russia aren't building military bases all throughout Africa, right? Which they could do, you know? Okay. Oh, man, you're hyping it for me. You're hyping it for me, dude. I'm getting too hyped. Jordan B. Peterson accidentally live streams his wife and himself cursing. This is gonna be fucking hilarious, dude. I can already tell. Oh my god. Ugh. Okay. I think I probably need to do like a censor warning or something like that for those of you who are just listening. There's probably going to be some swearing. I'm so looking forward to this. What's he even doing? He's like grimacing at the camera right now. Just like grinning, checking his teeth. He's got the look, eh? Like he does. He's got this like, he looks like a professor. He's got the look. And he just seems distinguished. Like he's just looking at stuff right now. What a great opening to this segment, man, with the grimace. All right, come on, come on. Enter the wife. Can't be just 5 minutes of him sitting here. Okay, I'm filling the dead air. Jordy P, just checking out stuff, looking around, seeing what's in the world. Oh, what's going on in the world today? With my individual eyes, I take a look. Typing something, being a dude, being a bro. It's a good looking tie he's got on, actually. I find this fashion to be completely absurd. It's such an absurdism. Like, look what he's got. He's got cushions on his shoulders to give the false impression that he's more broad and stronger than he is. And this isn't a thing on Peterson. This is completely the fashion. And then he's got a noose around his neck, right? He's got this noose wrapped around his...
Obama actually withheld more information. Spent $36 something million.
Okay, that was nothing. And I don't get this like fashion sentiment that exists in Western culture where they have cushions on their shoulders. Like if I was walking around with a fucking pillow on my shoulders and like a noose wrapped around my neck, like people would look at me like I'm a weird idiot. But for some reason, this is like completely acceptable. That I can jam like normal society, normal. Everything's normal right now, guys. Look at how normal I am. Normal society. Okay, here we go. Enter the wife. Enter the wife. I've never seen Jordan Peterson's wife before.
Want to see something? Make you mad? The Global News article on Bigfoot is returning Ontario to a 1998 sex ed curriculum. Mm-hmm. Some teachers are fighting back. Okay, I just want to show you the end of it. Mm-hmm. So the end of it.
So she's sharing something with him. It's very sweet. So far, so sweet. Like they look very sweet together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is what so that's the difference between them.
It's turning into a pretty long walk, dude. Pretty long walk. There better be a nice drink of water at the end of this walk.
39, gender identity, 39, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's a lovely little graph.
Yeah, so the teachers are saying, I think it's more of a human rights issue, right? This is teaching our little kids.
Fucking pricks.
He hopes the teachers across the province continue to teach this, even though he said you can't.
Yeah.
We are proud of ourselves. We're part of a movement that was run by common parents, which is what is happening now, right? So, the faith-based and who got it passed. That's the little bit about them, but the rest of it, all of it, is all about how horrible it is.
How horrible.
The changes.
Yeah,
so far, so overhyped. Yeah. So far, so overhyped, DM.
The teachers, even Jackie is like,
no, it's okay, dude. It's okay.
Not following. It's like they're so ill-informed.
Yeah, I really like the little graph there.
See, I was expecting like an argument. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting an argument. But that said, actually, this is what I'm talking. And I think it's important for us to remember these things, right? Like Jordan Peterson is our ideological adversary, right? Let's be really, really clear. He is our ideological adversary. But that said,
I think it helped.
like a moment like this that we all just watched together, you know, because we thought it was going to be like outrageous or whatever, but it's not that outrageous. But that's fine. But it really like humanizes the situation, right? It like humanizes the situation. We're like,
you're gonna
what-
have holes in your mouth, you know.
this is actually like a nice kind of charming moment between him and his
I'm
wife,
live streaming.
right? And a really like Peterson often tries to present himself as a impenetrable kind of icon sort of figure, right? Because he sees himself as like the leader of this movement and the leader of this kind of stuff. And that's great. But stuff like this really does remind us that like he's just a dude, right? He's just a fucking dude who has a wife and they have like this kind of nice moment. Like she's coming in and sharing something with him and they're talking and then she goes off and lets him go back to his work, right? And his work is essentially doing what I do, which is research and figure things out and all of that. And what I've always respected about Jordan Peterson is that I do genuinely think that his struggle is honest. I do generally think that his struggle is honest and that his weakness is his inability to find humility. That's his weakness, is that if he were to grab a hold of that Bible of his and understand that the force of God and the universe diminishes you down to an almost insignificant grain of salt, that all of his talk about individualism and free will and all of these things are almost meaningless. That like, so what if you are and so what if you do? If a grain of sand at the bottom of the ocean was an individual and was sentient, it wouldn't matter fucking at all. The ocean is going to push it where it wants to push it. And if that grain of sand washed up on a beach and then said, I got here by myself, no one would fucking take that seriously, nor would it matter particularly much, right? Like, have your free will, have your individualism. The rest of us are getting on with it. And I feel like if he came to that conclusion, if he actually stood back and was taken over by the awe of the power of the universe and his true insignificance within it, just as we all are, I'm not trying to say that he's beneath us, just as we all share this attribute, I think he'd be more effective. I think his own people would go along with him, right? I think his own people would take the journey with him. And I think that he would garner a lot more support and a lot more respect, certainly from people like me, right? Certainly from people like me who, like, and something like this, like, I know that you, like, I know, DM, you put this in front of us because you started watching it and you literally were like, Jordan Peterson cursing, and this was pretty funny. Like, this is a pretty funny picture right here, right? Let's be real clear. This is really funny. Like he's grimacing and just checking his teeth out. And he's got some janky teeth, eh? I got a janky tooth right here. Got a janky orc tooth right down there. So, like, but in the end, I feel like I watched this and it really humanized Peterson to me. Like, I like, it's annoying how much I actually like him. Like, that's the thing I think that I'm coming to. It would be easier if I hated him, I think. It would be easier if I despised him. It would be easier if I could just spit fire at him. But I can't, because I do genuinely believe, like, I don't think he's a Nazi, right? I don't think he's a neo-fascist or any of this kind of shit. I don't actually think that of him. I think that he is genuinely trying to help, and I think that he thinks that he is genuinely helping, right? And I got to tell you, in this fucked up, crazy world, that's kind of enough. you know, it is kind of enough that there's a guy, even if he's wrong, and I do think he's wrong about a lot of things, but I don't think he's trying to, like, organize a fucking fascist takeover of the country or anything crazy like that. Like, and I do wish that he would accept that there are fascist circles that listen to him. I do think that that's true. I think that there are fascist circles that listen to him, and he doesn't want to acknowledge that. And I kind of wish he would. I kind of wish he would. That would make me, like, really, really, I would have a ton of respect for him if he came out and he was like, oh yeah, there's fascist groups that listen to me, but you know, we've got to talk to these guys and get them away from the fascism. We got to get them back on the straight and narrow path, and I think that I can do that. And so I'm going to talk to these guys. If that's the way he was talking, I would be like, fuck, okay. But it's his denial. It's that he denies it and he pretends like that's not the case, when it's, like, pretty clear. Like, it's pretty clear. Anyway, this Peterson segment brought to you by DM9542. Hey, keep trying, bud. Keep trying. No, I think he literally was just quoting from the article, right? He just was, like, reading the article and he was like, oh, fucking pricks, and it said it, but it was censored, and he just said it. I was genuinely hoping that it was going to be some kind of, like, oh, fucking pricks, like something like that. But no, he was just quoting from the thing, and, you know, people just want likes, and look, that got 600,000 plus views, right? 600,000 plus views on a channel that only has 1,000.86 subscribers, right? That's only, like, a little over double the amount of subscribers that I have. Maybe, like, 3 times the amount of subscribers that I have. 600,000 views. Right? Jordan Peterson swearing. Right? Like, doesn't that just hit us in the head with how fucking childish we actually are? Right? Oh, my conservative father surrogate swore? Right? Oh, I gotta see this. Daddy swore. Yeah. Thank you, DM, for this. Thank you for this. This what a wonderful journey this took. Oh my god. I'm going to say one more nice thing about Jordan Peterson, because I think it's important to say nice things about your ideological adversaries, unless they're fucking sociopaths like Doug Ford. Don't say nice things about Doug Ford. Fuck that guy. I really do like that he judo throws his criticism. Like, when people try to hit him with the Lobster Man stuff, or even the Red Skull moment, like when his stuff got used in a Captain America comic as Red Skull, I really do admire that his strategy is to, like, take it in and then just sort of judo throw it and be like, so he sells T-shirts that are like Lobster Man T-shirts, and when the Red Skull thing happened, he, like, created a Hydra looking icon that said "Hail Lobster," right? Which it's like, I think that's a very mature and strong response. And then he turns around and, like, donates it to charity, like, all that kind of stuff, which you could say that's a bit manipulative, but, you know, I think it's very it shows a lot of class. It shows a lot of class that I just wish that he would, like, you guys know me, I got the chakra thing, right? The chakras, okay? Peterson is stuck here. He's stuck here. That he's gone through the process, whether or not he's done this consciously or not, but, like, he as an individual seems to have gone through the process of dealing with each of the chakras and going on up, but he's stuck He's stuck right here, and there's a block between this one and the last one. And because he's stuck here, he thinks this is the final place to be, right? He thinks that being stuck in the mind is the end, and it isn't. There's one more final step, which is the connection to the cosmic self, right? And Peterson's skepticism of psychedelics, Peterson's skepticism of drugs generally, and his grappling with the divine is exclusively intellectual, right? He grapples with the divine in an intellectual way, because the second you crack open your consciousness to the cosmic forces and you enter the realm of the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, the first thing that happens is you realize you're insignificant. Like that's the first thing that happens. It's instant. It's instant. You can't not admit that you are insignificant. And so, like, and I've said this of him before, and I'm going to keep saying it. I genuinely believe that Jordan Peterson can have a Saul to Paul conversion on the road to Damascus. That Saul was a persecutor of Christians, that he condemned a Christian known as Stephen to death and witnessed him being stoned to death. And then on the road to Damascus, a vision of Christ inflicted itself on him and told him that you will be struck blind until you come to Christ. And he was blind until finally he repented, came to Christ, and his blindness was lifted. He changed his name from Saul to Paul, and became one of the leaders of the Christian church, on the same level of importance to Peter, who literally was the apostle that Christ himself bestowed upon the divine right of being the leader of the Christian church. Like, it's an enormous and seminal moment in the Christian Gospels, and I genuinely think, and it would be really cool, honestly, it would be really cool. Like, it would be really cool if that happened to Jordan Peterson. If he had this, like, Damascus moment, and he came out of it and realized his divine insignificance, his humility, and then began to recognize that in all people, right? Because once you begin to realize that in all people, that's when you start to recognize that you are equal to everyone, right? That these statements of inequality and these statements of this kind of stuff are just an illusion that you've put in front of yourself so that you can continue living in this sort of arrogant worldview that I'm at the top of a hierarchy or whatever, right? And none of that matters. Like, none of that fucking matters at all. That, like, we are all equal in our insignificance in the divine power that we exist in. And that's true whether or not you believe in God or not. That's true if you're an atheist or not. That we are in quantum energy, if you like. And we are insignificant in the face of that. And that's where our equality comes from, and this great leveling, which is death. And this idea that while we're here, we should split ourselves into weird little communities and tribes and all this kind of stuff, and organize ourselves along weird hierarchy and like all that kind of shit. Like, it's just the ethos of a person who's caught in his own mind, right? And hasn't cracked through to actually become inspired by divine inspiration. That in many ways, like, there's this great Bible passage. If I speak with the tongues of gods and angels but have not love, I'm but a crashing gong and a sounding symbol, I feel like it applies. Well, and I think it's even more than that, DM. Like, we are divine beings going through the human experience, but we are perpetually sustained by this quantum energy, and it's extremely believable for me to think that, like, people keep asking me, okay, so there's this energy, or I keep wondering, so there's this energy that sustains us, that we're living in, without a doubt, certainly. That's the quantum theory. That's where we are. And so is it intelligent? And the only response that I can come up with is, well, it has to be at least as intelligent as I am, right? It has to be, because I am it and it is me, and we are made of the same thing. And it has to be at least as intelligent as I am. And if it has my intelligence and your intelligence and Jordan Peterson's intelligence and all of these people's intelligence, it has to at least be as intelligent as all that, right? And because that's all sort of flowing into the same energy, I have this wondering if like, could all of our knowledge sort of flow into the same spot? And if we all get into the same space and start looking at one another as an extension of this divine energy, can we move forward together as a divine being, right? Like, in the Christian faith, there is this idea that when you get into a room with everyone, that the presence of God is there with you, and I do think that is like, you enter the seventh chakra and you begin sending energy to each other, and the energy that exists between you and permeates through you is what they call God. Anyway, look at that. You fucking put Jordan Peterson in front of me, dude, and look where I'm at. You can tell why I respect him, eh? Because, like, this is how he fucking talks. And I know it's true, and I talk this way and he talks this way, and he's a rural country boy and I'm a rural country boy, and we're both interested in divinity, and he's all about, like, order and chaos and the dragon and all that shit, and I'm interested in, like, the divine energy and how that exists within us. And so you can see how, like, we are just like these rural country Christian boys grappling with our existence using the best language that we have access to, right? And so I really, like, I see a lot of myself in Peterson, and I hope that it would be very, very cool if one day he cracked on through. It'd be very, very cool if he cracked on through. Okay, I need to fucking get rid of this. This grimace. No, I'm done with Jordan Peterson, dude. I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna go on with him anymore. I can't. I can only do that for so long, until it starts to feel like I'm beating him up, and I don't want to ever do that. I don't ever want to do that. I'm happy to talk about issues and stuff, but don't think God has seen fit to evenly distribute the gift of intelligence. Well, that's an interesting. You're getting into an interesting kind of territory with that, Mocked, because, like, another way to kind of restate what you just said there is what's called in theological circles the problem of evil, right? Well, if God is so good, why is there so much evil, right? If God is so good, why is there so much evil? And I feel like I have solved the problem of evil, but I've introduced a larger, far more difficult problem. So I think, like, when people talk about God in a theological sort of sense, they think about somebody who's, like, actually forming a man, right? Crafting a man, like a craftsman molding clay. And that's fair that they assume that, because lots of theologians talk that way, that God is the craftsman and all this kind of stuff. And that's a very, like, Enlightenment kind of perspective, that God created and all this kind of, and all this. But I have a very different perspective. I don't think that this energy we live in created anything intelligently. That it was I don't think there was any thought that was put through. Like, it wasn't like, and then I'll build a biosphere, and that biosphere will do, like, none of that. Like 0%. And my reasoning is this. Anytime a creature is born into this plane of reality, right? And my assumption is that things that are true, that are like universal truths that you can observe in this reality, there's no reason to believe that they shouldn't continue being that way, in my perspective. And if we could find examples to countervene this, maybe I'd alter the way I talk or think, but every creature that's born into this plane of reality goes around trying to discover what it can do, right? What is it capable of? What is this environment? Where are they? But most importantly, what can they do? And this is true of insects. This is true of mammals. This is true of every creature that is born into this reality. Fish, literally everything comes out, and you can really see it with things like deer or horses, right? They come out and they are off to the races, and they're like, these are my legs, and off I go, and here I am, and what are we doing, right? And they're just observing, seeing, and all this kind of stuff. I'll loop around on that, DM. And so if that's true of literally every life form that exists, without exception, then I don't see why it can't be true of the energy that we exist in. That philosophers, even like atheist philosophers, are like, well, why is there something other than nothing? There must have been some kind of first movement, that there must have been like a nothing state that we literally can't perceive because of our limited state of being. And then that shifted. And even that momentary shift of the quantum energy that we all exist in right now, even that momentary shift takes us from this state of inertness into a state of movement, and it begins to ask that question. It begins to answer that question. What am I capable of doing? And if you are the divine energy that can create anything, then that's what you do. And you don't think about it, right? You just do it. You just create it, right? And all things that are logically possible to be created are, because that's what you're capable of doing, very simply. And it's only after you've created all of these things that you can go back and observe them, and discover something about them, and live through them, and persist in them, or any of this kind of stuff. And it's only after the things exist that you can begin to ask the question, wait, what is good? What is evil? Right? That all of these things are created incidentally, if you like. And the theological position is that it's better that these things exist than they don't exist. So that's the idea of God's benevolence. But because, and then the question becomes, well, why doesn't God like just eliminate evil? Like, why doesn't God just go around and eliminate evil? But like, how does that fucking work? Right? That these things exist within the energy, and they exist because they logically can. And so let's, like, if God went up to like some atrocity and was like, that's too evil, I'm going to get rid of that. Well, it would have to delete it from its own memory, right? Because it is ostensibly just imagination. It is just energy and imagination. And so deleting this event from itself would cause it to observe this emptiness and then immediately recreate it, because it had forgotten what it was it had created in the first place. So, and I find it very believable that such a life form would find itself caught in all kinds of loops like that. Why would you want the Holocaust to exist? Because ostensibly, such a divine being lives through that. It's not pleasant, I wager. And here's where things get really horror-y, right? Here's where things get kind of horrible when you contemplate and think on these lines, right? That God, or this divine energy, or whatever you like, creates everything that is logically possible. So if you can imagine it, it certainly exists. that means that hell for sure exists. Now, the big question is this a place you can go? Right? Is this a place that I can go? I fucking don't know. I don't know. Now you're getting into all kinds of stuff. And this flows into this. If any of you are still listening, by the way, because I know that when I get into this kind of talk, it's kind of hoobu-jubu. It's kind of not stable. And I worry that I'm going to chase everybody away. But do I believe in... Oh, okay. What happens if there's no Holocaust to dissuade other people from starting another Holocaust? Well, and that to me comes to like the solution, right? The solution that such a divine being would come up with, which is that, oh shit, that shit sucked, right? That shit sucked. So I need to make it so that such an event doesn't occur again, right? And if I want to avoid that experience, and if I want to avoid doing that, I need to ensure it doesn't happen again. Well, how would such a being do that? Well, the only way a being such as this could do that would be to have the beings that are alive in the plane of existence that such a thing could occur talk to one another and actively avoid it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it, right? And avoid all the steps up to it. Avoid all of that, right? Learn from that experience. Pass it down through the generations to avoid a similar situation from arising again. And that's the only way it could be done, right? And so in the end, it really does come down to just like be kind to one another, right? This is why Christ is walking around. This is why all the religious people are walking around being like, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Love your environment or love God, right? Which in a theological statement is ostensibly the environment. That we that because fundamentally they do understand that being kind to one another, caring about one another, do unto others, exactly, like that is actually the beating heart of all of this, right? That like I don't, like we shouldn't treat each other shittily. Like we just shouldn't treat each other shittily. And that should just be like the basis of all things and all thought. But it isn't. We like literally we have to wind and whinge and like bend ourselves to actually land there. And it's like, can you imagine if you lived in a world where everyone around you, every single person, your president, your city councilman, your business owners, every single person was operating on the principle that I should care about this person as much as I care about myself, right? That the world would be a fundamentally different place if everyone in it genuinely believed, when I'm speaking to this person, I am speaking to a person who is of equal merit to myself. That's why I find it so fundamentally difficult to become a secularist and to become a not even an atheist, but just like I find it very difficult to do that because I feel as though there are really wonderful things in these texts. There's these really wonderful things in this text. And ultimately, my position, and I've said it all the time in these conversations, is I don't think it actually matters that much. Like, I genuinely don't think it matters that much if you're an atheist or a secularist or a theologian or any of that. That the energy is there whether you are or you're not. The energy is there whether you think it's sentient or not. The energy is there whether you think it's alive or not. Right? And the questions really should be, well, how do we get on? And it seems to me like treating each other equally because in the not even that wide a view, you don't even need to step out that much farther than like 100 years, right? You don't need to have a big long like millennial view. Like you literally can just be like one step out and be like, oh, I was born and I die, and that space I can view out and kind of perceive that. And once you have that perception, then everything is equal, because everyone is born and everyone dies. And what happens between those 2 points is like this hodgepodgey connection and twisting energy of ridiculous nonsense. And so while you're going through it, even if you are like this hard-nosed atheist, the best strategy is to just be kind to everybody. It's just the best way to go. I don't have a very strong position on reincarnation to get into this. I was told reincarnation takes place, so this is DM, I was told reincarnation takes place because a soul needs to perfect itself through several life cycles in order to advance into higher realms. I don't really know that I care about that kind of talk. You know? Like, it's interesting to think about, and it's interesting to like dwell on the idea, I suppose. And I can see how somebody would think about this as a tool for sorry, my dog is begging for peanut butter, and I will oblige him, because if I was a little puppy begging for peanut butter, I would hope somebody would give it to me. Are you familiar with... Hey, Ward, how you doing, bud? We're just right in the middle of a really kind of hoobu-joobu-y sort of conversation. Law. Nisara Law. Nothing from that. Guess Sarah. I don't know that I have enough information, bud, and I don't want to do research. Oh, this might do it. This might... butts. I don't like boring you guys with just like a research project. Oh, come on. Don't take me to purpose. I just want to zoom this in. Can I just zoom this in? Oh, it's like right here. Okay. Forgives credit card, mortgage, and other... Oh, this is like a deviation. We're no longer talking about spiritual stuff. I was like literally like Gesara law, like the law of Gesara, right? Like, no, this is like a completely different thing though. Can I find this without this stupid... National Economic Security and Reformation Act. Okay, I'm down. I just can't get a good view of this, and it's only coming up on stupid Pinterest, and then I gotta continue as my stupid dumb pin. Welcome to Pinterest. Okay, show me the stupid picture that I clicked on. Oh my god. Mail. Oh my goodness. Next. Pick what? All of these. Done. All set. Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't care. Oh, this is making me so mad. Okay, and all of this so that I can just look at this thing. Okay, for frick's sake. Okay, go away. National Economic Security and Reformation Act. A law was passed in March 2000 and signed into law in October 2000. This law is called NESARA, National Economic Security and Reformation Act. Forgives credit card, mortgage, and other bank due to illegal banking and government activities, abolishes income tax, abolishes IRS. None of this has actually happened. Increases benefit to senior citizen, creates U.S. when was this passed? What the hell is this even? So I'm just gonna say long form. No, I don't know anything about this. It seems like a bunch of hooey. Can I say hooey without being insulting? Seems like a bunch of hooey to me. Has this been implemented? No. No. Anyway. So, Ward, to answer your, did Marx have any commentary on consumerism? I mean, nothing that jumps to mind beyond his ideas surrounding. I'll take a look, bud. I'll take a look. His ideas surrounding who should own the means of production, which everybody's familiar with. I just don't think, like, it's the same story that is happening with the climate catastrophe. Like, there are lots of people who are trying to play, like, the technicality game with Marx and be like, Marx wouldn't support, like, I constantly say we need to slow down. And there are people, like Caleb Maupin said this. He said, a Marxist, you can't call yourself a Marxist and say that you want to slow down. Marxism is about increasing the bounty of creation and all this kind of stuff. It's about increasing productivity. It's not about decreasing productivity. And I'm like, yeah, because Karl Marx doesn't have a critique of climate change catastrophe, right? How could he, right? Like, maybe he has sort of an environmental statement where he's like, yeah, we destroy a lot of shit. But he doesn't have, like, an understanding of the climate change catastrophe. Like, and I'm sure if he did, the first position he would take is maybe not do that. Like, maybe don't destroy yourself, right? Like, maybe not. Like, maybe not. And I feel like Marx, I have a similar kind of thing on his view of consumerism. That consumerism really, like, this, like, Marx happened before the ridiculous consumerism we have now. That ostensibly when things were being created when Marx was alive, they were useful. Like, they actually served a purpose. Like a tool or clothing or you know, even where the waste is in the military or like through enslavement and all this kind of stuff, at least that had a like, at least there was a purpose to it, right? Like this manic, insane bullshit that we live in now, where we're literally creating junk that serves no purpose whatsoever. I don't think Marx could have seen that coming. I just don't think he could have seen it coming. That this sort of delusional mania for distraction. I think he certainly was aware of our mania for distraction, but I think you got to get into like Nietzsche. Nietzsche saw it coming more than I think Marx did, and because Marx is essentially an economist, right? Like he's, and Marx doesn't actually have that strong a position on the human condition, right? He that's a critique that you really can put at the feet of Marx, and I think it's accurate to do that while he was an astute economist, I don't think he was that astute in regards to human nature and what humans do, really. And so, and I mean, we're all like, we all have strengths and weaknesses and all this, and so I just don't think he saw consumerism coming. Certainly not to this scale. Like, this is why I was saying earlier that it's like we live in this like pretend society. Like we live in this society it's like a parody. It's like an actual stable society wanted to make a cartoon version of what a society would look like if it fell into disarray. And it's like this, that's what we are. We're like this cartoon satire of a society where like we're creating just meaningless junk to blow up our we're literally creating meaningless junk to distract ourselves from communicating with the world that we live in and communicating with each other, and incidentally, oh by the way, doing that destroys us. Like, what the fuck? That's like a parody. That's like a joke. Like, if you literally wrote out what the story of what humanity was doing to itself in a script and presented it to somebody and said, this is a script of a story that I've written, people would be like, this is the most unbelievable piece of trash I've ever read in my life. Nobody would do this. No society would ever do this to itself. Fucking here we are. We're like a cartoon fucking parody version of a society. Fucking totally normal, dude. Totally normal, yeah. Keep making fucking toys and bullshit, right? Keep making... dig this, Ward. Dig this. I cannot get over this. keep making trucks that are bigger than fucking World War II tanks. Keep it up. Keep it fucking up. Yeah, you're expecting people to address a problem centuries ahead of their time. It's like expecting a 1600s newspaper to talk about radios and television causing the death of written information. Yeah. But I mean, I do think that if you were to dig into Marx, I suspect you would find a commentary, but it's just not very prominent, right? I bet you'd find it if you dug into it, because like it just wasn't that big a problem, during Marx's time. Gas guzzlers, capitalism, baby, yeah. Team America, don't you know? The more fossil fuels you burn, the more successful you are, brother. Fucking Jeff Bezos is the most successful man in the world because he's burning fossil fuels. He's burning fossil fuels and getting into space. He's the most successful man in the world. I want to be like Jeff Bezos, so I'm going to burn as many fossil fuels as I can. And when you actually pause and consider what it is you're actually doing, like, here's a nice theological perspective of this, what we're doing. So you're telling me that we are extracting from the earth, we are exhuming the graves of the bones of our ancestors. We are taking the genetic material of those who have preceded us, our ancestral heritage, our lineage that has built up over millions of years. We are exhuming their graves, and we are taking their corpses, mulching them into an alchemical potion that we pour into our infernal machines to blast them with flame and fire and convert their essence into mystical and magical superpowers for us to propel ourselves with speed across the face of the planet and puncture the atmosphere itself to ascend to space and the stars. And for our misdeeds, our ancestors are gathering within the atmosphere and allowing the ever-penetrating eye of the star that gives us life to boil us alive for our sins. How dare you exhume us and wake us from our slumber, they say to us. We will return to the earth, and you will come with us. Bezos literally wanted to defy gravity. Yeah. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Like, I could say it in the scientific terminology if you like, but like, that's what we're doing. We are exhuming their corpses, we are exhuming their graves, and we are burning them so that we can go fast. I gotta get to work, so like, and literally, but like, I should be more clear. It's not even so that we can go fast. It's so that we can have these horseless carriages running and get stuck in traffic for an hour to go to a job we hate, to do a task that's meaningless, so that we can get back in the chassis again and go home. Like, I've just said it in kind of a poetic language. Like, it's the kind of thing that you would hear like a 14th century monk say. But it's no less true. Like, I genuinely think that like our true, like, people like to say that the original sin of America is slavery. But I think the original sin of America is believing that we own this place. And that's like the original sin of Western society, going all the way back to like the Romans. Like, we've been like this for thousands of years, where we genuinely believe that we own this place. And like the best Christians will say that, oh, well, we need to be good stewards, right? But if you're a steward, you're still owning the place, right? And like this perspective that we've taken, where we believe we own this place, instead of believing what is actually accurate, that we are simply here, and that there is no ownership of this. Like, at best, we're renting. But we are temporary. We are temporary, temporal beings on this plane of reality. We certainly don't own this place. The earth owns itself. It just lets us tool about. It just lets us be here, unless we break its rules. And there are rules. There are rules. Well, that's up to you guys. That's up to you guys and the Creator. I have big conversations. Me and the Creator have a big conversation about this. I keep telling it. Hey, I show up and I'm doing the fucking work. You're the one that needs to start paying out, bitch. Come on. Come on. Yeah. This has been a good live stream. I really appreciate that you guys stick around for these kinds of conversations, because like there is a part of me that worries. Like I found the new atheist conversation that happened to be so alienating, and it was alienating in so many ways. And I really am trying to find a way to get the secularists or the atheists and the theists in the same room with one another, talking about this without getting caught in semantic bullshit. Because that's really what happened with the new atheists, that it really just got caught in a lot of semantic bullshit. And I think that there are very large things that we need to actually be talking about. And we got to start talking about things in a way that makes it understandable for everyone in the room. And so I'm glad that when I talk this way that there are people hanging out, because I do think it's important. Like I think that's like if we ever are freed from this capitalist nightmare, the thing we should be talking about is, what the fuck is all this? Why are we here? What is any of this? What should we spend our time doing? What should we investigate? What should we observe? What should we learn? What should we discuss amongst one another? But right now we're literally just like, how do I pay rent? Like, Jesus. Well, guys, on that note, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, throw a buck my way, all the things, bells, whistles, you know the deal. You know the deal. You are divine beings, standing in divine energy. We could use some of it right now. Good luck. We're gonna need it.